Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show, live from SiriusXM today. There is breaking news out of Israel right now, where it appears the beginnings of what could turn into a regional war are unfolding. Hezbollah has reportedly opened up an attack on Israel's northern border. This is the situation many had feared and predicted. We brought to you the other day the former Israeli ambassador's prediction, Michael Oren, that this would lead to regional war. That certainly, as Israel started to consider a ground invasion into Gaza, Hezbollah might be tempted. Other radicalized Palestinians and Arabs in the area might be provoked into getting involved. And this is not what anyone wanted, but this is what Hamas's actions have led to. The New York Times is reporting right now that Israeli security officials have issued multiple alerts saying, quote, a hostile aircraft has entered the country and ordered citizens across the north of the country to reinforce shelters. In other words, it appears that Hezbollah has entered via the air and that Israel is ordering its citizens in the north to enter the reinforced shelters. The Israeli military called this a suspected infiltration from Lebanon. We are monitoring this. If this is true, the stakes have just gone way up in this conflict, and we will bring you more as we get it. This literally is just breaking moments before we got to air. In the meantime, in recent days, it seems like a seismic shift has taken place as the world's eyes are opened, finally, to what many had already seen, and that is the depths of anti-Semitism in our own country and around the world. It is stunning. You know, being left is one thing. Being a committed leftist is one thing. Being an open anti-Semite is quite another. And the amount of anti-Semitism being displayed proudly is absolutely stunning. It really is disgusting. Never again, if you've ever been to a Holocaust memorial, if you've been to Auschwitz, if you've been to Dachau, you'll see that there. Never again, in all the different languages. This was a slogan associated with the lessons of the Holocaust. And yet here we go again. The hatred of Jews, the massacre of Jews, and for the state of Israel runs so deep that a sitting U.S. Congresswoman cannot even condemn terrorists, forgive me for the casual reference here, chopping off the heads of babies when confronted by a reporter. I mean, think about that. Think about that. I don't care what your policy is. You say no comment when you get confronted in the halls of Congress by a reporter. By the way, it was a Fox News reporter. It's not some random. You comment. You comment on that. It's not hard unless you have something in your heart that you don't want us to see. We've long known about Michigan Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib's defense of the Palestinians. She is the daughter of Palestinian immigrants. That doesn't necessarily make you pro-murder of children, but in her case, it appears to. She's also a mother. She's a mother of 2 children, which makes this exchange with Fox News' Hillary Vaughn even more alarming.
Do you condone what Hamas has done, chopping off babies' heads, burning children alive, raping women in the street? You have no comment about children's heads being chopped off? Congressman, why do you have a Palestinian flag outside your office if you do not condone what Hamas terrorists have done to Israel?
Go ahead.
Do Israeli lives not matter to you?
This is the same woman who was crying a couple of years ago about children being separated from their parents at the southern border. That was 2019. She was in tears, crying. Oh, she was so sad for the children. But heads chopped off, that's just fine. Doesn't even warrant a comment. Forgive me. Given that exchange, it shouldn't be any surprise, I suppose, that in the Congresswoman's home district last night, some 1,200 people gathered for a rally in support of the Free Palestine movement. Some of us offer our prayers for the murder victims in Israel, and others gather, like they did here, to celebrate Palestine at this moment. There, some did manage a word for the civilian lives that have been lost, but one of the speakers, named Amer Zaher, offered this take.
When you go to a Black Lives Matter rally, you see Palestinian flags. When you go to a white supremacy rally, you see Israeli flags. This is not complicated.
Let's get to America's top colleges and universities. what's happening there is absolutely horrific. I cannot believe that this number of hateful, dumb students have infiltrated our top universities coast to coast. The list of student groups now issuing support for the terror group Hamas continues to grow. Okay, Columbia, Northwestern, Stanford, NYU, to name just a few. At NYU, the president of the Student Bar Association, writing in a memo, quote, "I will not condemn Palestinian resistance," and, quote, "Israel bears full responsibility for this tremendous loss of life." Full responsibility for the murder of their own babies, for the elderly women shot at the bus stop, for the 85-year-old who was murdered and then the Hamas terrorist posted it on her Facebook page so her family would see it. This student, who happens to go by they, them pronouns because these people always want attention, has now lost out, thank God, on a job offer at Winston & Strawn, a very respected law firm in Chicago. And good for Winston & Strawn. She was a summer associate last year. She was obviously part of their diversity hire. She check out her page. I mean, she's a part of all the groups and wanting you to know it. And they should have done a simple Google search because this woman becoming a problem would have been obvious to them long before they offered her the summer associateship. Thank God they pulled her permanent offer. She was about to complete her third year at NYU and return there as an associate. I don't think this woman could even pass the ethics piece of the bar. There's an ethics piece of the bar that tries to prevent hateful people like this woman, Rina Workman, from making it as a lawyer, from getting, you can't stop the JD, but you can stop the admission to the bar. And that's actually what should happen to her next. Joining me now, Glenn Beck, host of the Blaze TV's The Glenn Beck Program. Hey, subscribe to the show on YouTube and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Negative dings on credit reports happen to all sorts of people from all socioeconomic backgrounds. Understanding the credit landscape can be extremely tough, and spending the time to dispute and repair these so-called dings can be a full-time job. Good luck to you if you already have one of those and kids and a real life. For starters, you have to deal with 3 separate credit bureaus, which is a massive headache and annoying. It's also a common misconception that people with poor credit scores are just those who simply don't pay their bills. These actually can be hardworking people who were negatively affected by divorce, identity theft, medical debt, student loans, and they just don't have the time or they're too overwhelmed to fix it. But if you don't address negative credit items, they can haunt you for years to come. And when it counts the most, like when you're trying to get a mortgage at a competitive rate, which is important given these interest rates. The good news is that our sponsor, Lexington Law, wants to help you. Go to lexingtonlaw.com and start today with a free consultation and review. Tell them Megyn sent you at lexingtonlaw.com. Glenn, welcome back to the show. I know it's not about the college students, but the hatefulness of this group of young people, according to a report that posted on Mediaite just yesterday, they were citing a poll. Only 32% of 18 to I think it's 32-year-olds believe that Hamas has targeted civilians. Only 32%. These young people are idiots, and they're all over our top institutions as, quote, the next generation of leaders. Let's just table that for 1 second because the big news right now is Hezbollah and whether a new front just opened in the north of Israel with an incursion from the north. Your thoughts on it?
We are headed for not just a regional war, but I believe we're headed for a global war. You can't have Hezbollah in the north, Hamas on the south, and what will be the IRGC coming in from the Syrian side. It's going to overwhelm Israel. And I honestly, it will take a miracle to keep us out of World War III, I think. However, miracles have happened with Israel over and over again. So there's a few things I've been listening to your monologue, and I want to address. First of all, this is in some dark way, a blessing if we look at it this way. This is the first time in human history that I know of somebody has said who they are and then proven it. Hitler, when he said, I'm going to kill all the Jews, it was in print, it was everywhere, but nobody wanted to believe him because it was too horrific. He even tried to cover it with a final solution and then cover it at the end. He didn't want to be known as that guy. So we didn't know. This time we know. They say it is not about a second state. It is about killing the Jews, period. We know what they say. We know what they do. They put it on social media. They wanted the world to see it. So this goes into not only who Hamas is, but who is Iran, who is Hezbollah, who is the RIGC, who is Black Lives Matter?
Yeah.
Who are the people that are in our own Congress, in our own schools, that are endorsing this or turning a blind eye? This is where the blessing comes in. This, I think, is one of your last chances to actually get off of that death train and step on to a platform of truth. There is good and evil, and it is clear. I don't care what was done to, let's say, us in World War II. If Americans would have been the ones that were tortured and killed the way they were in the death camps, I still wouldn't be for going in and shooting German families in their homes and killing their children. That would make us evil. So no matter what's happened to you, it never excuses you killing families and children knowingly. It's not like dropping a bomb and all your guys happen to be hanging out by a school. Yep, that's unfortunate. I don't like that. Nobody wants that, but that is war. You went in intentionally to kill civilians, to rape women, and to kill babies. That is as evil as it gets, and that evil is the same evil that says, hey, shout your abortion. It is the same evil that says whites are inferior and they need to be taught a lesson. What happened with Hamas is exactly what will happen, and they are for it, as you saw out of Chicago, exactly what will happen if these radical groups like BLM are in charge or allowed to fester and grow. They are a death cult. This is all about a death cult. It's interesting to me that if somebody 200 years ago did something like this, which we all now say is horrible, we have to pay for it. But if somebody does something today to Jews, I guess it's okay. So first thing to remember is this can be a blessing to us because we actually can see it. We hear them. We see them. We can recognize evil. Make sure you're on the right side. The second thing that I think comes out of this is an understanding that at least a regional war, I believe this is going to turn into the global war, is coming. So you not only have to know who your friends are, know what side you're on, but you also have to now look at the border, because we have what probably is in the thousands of enemies of America. You can't tell me that they're not sleeper cells in Judea and Samaria, and you can't tell me that there's not sleeper cells here now in America. If we get into a global war, the world as we know it in America is going to change. So the best thing that you can do is know what side you're on. There's no neutral here. If you're neutral, you're going to end up on the wrong side. You have to look this in the eye. You have to decide who you are today. Then you have to actively get involved by doing good and being a voice of reason, not of chaos, and stand for the things that, honestly, if you just are a political person, just dedicate yourself to doing everything you can to make the people like Rashid Tlaib, make sure they're not elected again. Make sure that you've done everything in your power to make sure that this philosophy is flushed down the toilet as it should have been a long time ago. Make sure you're working for an election where things will change, because what you're seeing now is such an incompetent president. He has screwed this country up so many different ways. We're an unprepared military, gas prices. We go to war, gas prices will easily be $10 a gallon. There'll be shortages of things because he has screwed us in the end. But you look at this, we're a nation that is unprepared for war for the first time in my lifetime. We are sitting back the way we were maybe right before World War I. That's not a good place to be.
A moment on the BLM thing, because it really is telling. So BLM Chicago post a picture of a paraglider, which is, of course, in part how the Hamas terrorists got into Israel to kill the innocents, with a Palestinian flag, or what purports to be, flying from the top. And it reads, "I stand with Palestine" on the bottom. And BLM tweets out, "That is all. That is it." This is the group, Miranda Devine was pointing this out yesterday online, that companies like Disney, Google, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Walmart, Target, Lululemon, McDonald's, Wendy's, Coca-Cola, Peloton, etc., lavished money on in 2020.
Oh, yeah.
This is the group that changed Fifth Avenue in New York to where we had to have a BLM moniker on it, that changed the courts on the NBA. This is the group that if you didn't post a little black square in solidarity with them on a certain day, people started to accuse you of being a racist. But there were many people who had questions about this group from the start, because as you point out, some people really do tell you who they are right from the get-go. And their mission statement was very clear about what they wanted to do and dismantle the nuclear family and completely change America. And here they are at it again. I mean, openly, that is it. That is it! Exclamation. They are loving what's happening right now, Glenn. And many Jewish Americans supported this group back in 2020. And now when they need support, it's a celebration of their murder.
So I would, again, use this as a way to wake people up. If you were for BLM, I'm sorry you didn't believe that it was for, maybe a month or so when they first started on their own website, the end of the nuclear family, the end of capitalism as we know it, the end of the Western way of life. This is what is happening with the Palestinians and Hamas to the Israelis. That is what BLM's world looks like. When they say they want an end to the nuclear family, I thought that was evil. I just didn't realize that they meant any kind of end, even shooting them in their sleep or beheading their babies. This has got to be understood. And, Megyn, I'd be interested in hearing your point of view on this, because there's a big there's an argument that's happening even inside of my own building here with my producers. Tonight, I have Ben Shapiro and Dave Rubin on my Wednesday night special. And we're going to show the videos that everybody, including Israel, says don't show. I think those videos are so important. It is like having pictures of the gas chambers in 1940 and not showing them. I think they need to be seen, because this is the evidence that shows you, look, they said they will kill all Jews. They've said that. Now here they are, and there is no way to defend killing women and children execution style on social media. Everybody says that shouldn't be seen, including Israel. I disagree. We have photos now of the death chamber. Why wouldn't we show them?
Yeah, it's a tough call. I mean, I agree in general with the showing of the videos right now. We've chosen to carve like a middle lane on it and show some, but not all. Just because, to be perfectly honest, I just feel like there's only so much my heart can take in even bringing the show, never mind my audience.
I know.
There's just only so much. I don't know about you, Glenn, but like this has been weighing on me so heavily. It's really changing my personality these past few days. You got to be able to function in your own life. You got to be able to get your kids off to school. You got to be able to be a loving, kind mother. And there's only so much I can take. And that's me. I don't mean to make me the story. I'm just saying, like, me, all these thousands of miles away, I can't imagine that. When we're going to talk, Dr. Drew's going to be here in a little while. We're going to talk about, like, how are they functioning, the amount of terror that's being unleashed on these poor families, even the ones who survived. How do you go about your day? How do you ever live normally again? So I support your decision, and I think it's great to tell people in advance you're going to do it, and that way they can make the choice for themselves whether they want to see it,
Yeah.
or they don't want to see it. But don't comment on it. If you haven't seen it, if you haven't taken the time to at least see some of it, then don't comment because you don't understand.
Yeah, but more importantly, it has to be shown. So, I mean, Megyn, you and I both worked. I worked at CNN. We both worked at Fox. You had to have special permission to take the World Trade Center footage out of the vault and show it on your show. And it was only really allowed around September 11th. I think that's a mistake because you forget that if you never again is now, right now, and they're just doing it in a different way than they were doing it in the 1930s. And how many people risk their lives? Raoul Wallenberg is a great hero. He risked his life to save Jews. He tried to get the information. He handed it to the Americans. He handed it to the Swiss. He handed it to the British. And no one would do anything. So all of the stories of the Holocaust were rumors and were on page 31 of the New York Times. This needs to be seen so no one can say, because they will, that's not true. That never happened. Yeah. Those pictures need to be seen.
I can't get over the way this is being spun, even by what I would consider, quote, mainstream leftists, let's say MSNBC. Okay, I'll give you one example. Mehdi Hasan, who's just been a nightmare in his coverage of this whole thing. He goes after this guy, Bill Ackman, who you probably saw yesterday or the day before, Glenn. He's a hedge fund guy who said, all right, we've got 35 student groups at Harvard who have said this is all on Israel. We stand in solidarity with only one side, and it's not Israel. It's the side beheading the babies. And Bill Ackman rightly said, I've been being contacted by other guys in finance and on Wall Street saying, let's get a list of those names. Those are not people who we want working for us, which you could completely understand. Anyway, so let me pause it. So Bill Ackman says, okay, I will. And so groups have been doing it. Townhall.com released the names of these student groups, who are the people who are in the student groups. And then you have Mehdi Hasan come out and say, oh, I thought the right was supposed to be pro-free speech. Thought you were all free speech warriors. Doesn't seem so free speechy to be canceling people like Rhino Workman of NYU for speaking out on behalf of Hamas. In response to which I said, you've got to be kidding me. Like, it's now cancel culture to not want to hire a terrorist sympathizer and defender. I need to hire at my law firm, if I decide to hang up my shingle again, somebody who says, I'm totally fine with the murder of children and the burning of women alive. Yes, I think it's just. And in fact, it's all the fault of the victims. I'm good with that. I'm supposed to hire this person? Then I'm going to go look for, let's say, Jewish clients? Good luck. Good luck. As if this is equivalent to the left's cancellation of somebody for making tacos when they're not Mexican, which, by the way, actually has happened.
I tell you, the world is upside down, and this can be the beginning of a great awakening and a return to truth. It has to be. If all of this stuff is related, all of this is related, and it's repeating itself. You know, the Armenians are being killed, and a genocide is happening in Armenia right now. That happened and taught Hitler, you know what? We can get away with liquidating anybody we want, and the world won't say anything about it.
Yeah, he said, who remembers the Armenians?
Yeah, nobody remembers the Armenians, but it's happening right now. My charity happens to have people on the ground trying to get them out of the area and protect them as much as we can. Most people aren't even talking about it. All of the evils from the past are happening, and it always, anti-Semitism ties itself to Marxism, statism, authoritarianism. All of this stuff is related. You know, you're surprised that this is happening at you're not surprised. This is happening at the universities. All of these universities are coming out and saying just horrendous things. Really? Because you were the same universities that hired actual Nazis. This is the same kind of culture that was happening with the Nazis. Look up the German Bund movement, the American German Bund movement. It was a Nazi movement There were trains that came out of Grand Central Station and went to Long Island and the Jersey shoreline every weekend that flew an American and Nazi flag on the front of the train. They sold out Madison Square Garden to have a rally for Hitler. They put an armband around the image of George Washington. This is the same hatred that comes from Marxism, socialism, and all the other isms that go right along with it. There is an idea that all men are created equal. That means we don't all have to agree with each other, but it does mean we have to agree that all people, Palestinians or Israelis, have a right to speak their mind. But if you are for the silencing of other people through murder, rape, burning people alive, beheading children, I'm sorry. I'm not in a compact with you. Mm-mm. America used to have a compact. We must restore the Bill of Rights compact.
What did you make of Biden's speech yesterday? Just for the listening audience, we have...
I don't. I mean...
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, what am I, it was good. I mean, I know people in Israel, they had to listen to that and go, oof, thank goodness. But I don't believe any of that. He's surrounded by Obama wannabes. He's the most incompetent individual. I have absolutely no faith that this president and the leadership that he's selected at the Pentagon can do anything but shoot themselves in the foot. This is the most dangerous time we have had maybe since the Cuban Missile Crisis. We are on the edge. And who do we have running things? I mean, if he would drop dead tomorrow from a heart attack or choking on pudding, then we have Kamala Harris.
Oh, God.
Do you feel better? Do you feel like we're in control just with our strategic oil reserve? We just gave away 7 years of our missile usage, which means it will take us 7 years to manufacture those missiles so we can use them. If you think that China, if this starts to grow, if Israel, and there's a miracle happen, and Israel is able to kill this and fight this back, and we go back to normalcy, then everything changes. But if they don't, do you think China won't go for Taiwan?
Right.
Those are the computer chip people. They make the chips for the supercomputers. If we don't have access to those things, we can't make them. China will. And if you don't think China will take an opportunity for a 3-front war, where I don't think we could even last on a 1-front war, I mean, what good are the words of the president? I'd like to see some action, except I say that with great hesitancy because every action he takes. Let me ask you this. You're the president of the United States. We have hostages taken by the same kind of people that took our hostages in 1979. Do you have your spokesperson come out and say, there are roads, there's lots of ways to get out of Israel. You could just take a road. Where? Through Gaza to Egypt, or maybe it's through Lebanon and Hezbollah, or maybe we go into Syria. Where are those roads? I have employees that have people trapped in Israel right now. We can't get out. Why? There's no American carrier that is flying in. You have to go on Lufthansa. Lufthansa is brave enough to say, we're going to rescue anybody who's German can come out. Lufthansa, the Germans are saving Jews, and we're standing on the sidelines. What good does a speech make? When did we become such wusses that we will stand on the sidelines kicking rocks? We won't even save our own people.
Well, where was even the presidential messaging on it yesterday, on the hostages? Where was the messaging of one hair on one head of an American?
No, because they don't believe it.
Right. And you're going to be dealing with the Navy. I mean, they've already killed 14 Americans, but now we have an untold number still in jeopardy. And where is the strong presidential message of if you harm a single American, we're going to unleash the full force of, but he won't, because he's not prepared to do that. I don't know what he's prepared to do. And in fact, if you talk to any of these experts who have been watching his conduct and the Democrats' conduct when it comes to Israel and all the past conflicts, we run out of patience. And it's not just Democrats. Condoleezza Rice famously ran out of patience after 32 days in the conflict about 15, 16 years ago. We give Israel a very short leash, and then we run out of patience, and then we tell them it's time to wrap it up. And I don't think they're going to listen to us this time, Glenn. And
oh no, they're not.
I don't know what position that leaves us in.
I've been there, Megyn. You've been there. You've been chased out through Holocaust after Holocaust, 19 of them, and every time the world says, "Get out, go someplace else, get out." Well, they finally have a place. They have their own homeland. While our government is disarming the American people with open borders. You know why Russia never, of all the plans to destroy America, they never had a plan that had them coming through our southern border into Texas. You know why? Because Texans were clear about the American Constitution. They were clear about communism, and they were armed. And they knew they'd have to face the people, not just the army. Israel is giving guns to their citizens. 10,000 rifles are being given to private citizens right now. Our government is disarming us while we have about 4 million people who we have no idea who they are. While we have Palestinian people screaming, "Gas the Jews." I don't know what happens if you're of that point of view and you came in from Iran, you came in from Gaza. You don't have necessarily love for America. You didn't come here to better your family's life, and you're a sleeper cell.
Well, not only that, Glenn, right now, the leader of Hamas put out a statement calling to make this Friday a, quote, global day of jihad. And so, and he's asking, the number one ask was, yes, donations, but also the number one was to shed blood in the name of their cause. And so, you know, to relate it back to what's happening in America, I'm sure every Jewish community center is now under guard. Our friends going to synagogue on the weekend, they have to worry. And think about the Jewish students at these college campuses who have students, an untold number of whom support the murder of Jewish civilians in the name of this cause and won't even get denounced by the university heads. These same university heads who were rushing out there to post statements after George Floyd, after one man whose life was taken by the police. Now, 9 times out of 10, they haven't said anything, even in response to the student groups. And I've seen the letters from Jewish students and Jewish student groups writing to the heads of school. A lot of them are being sent to me saying, would you please say something? At most, they get a milquetoast statement like, well, we condemn the violence that's unfolded. Not putting the blame squarely where it belongs on Hamas's shoulders. So here in America, we need to worry too. I mean, this conflict could be coming here.
Oh, I think it will. I mean, you know, look, I'm a catastrophist, an optimistic catastrophist. You know, I believe in Americans. I believe in the Constitution, and I believe in God. So anything can change, and Americans can wake up. And once they wake up, it changes. America is America because of her people, not her government. Our government, unfortunately, has gone to hell in a handbasket. But enough is out there now where people can see, oh, wait a minute. And when Hillary Clinton says, you know, you got these Trump people that just need to, you know, maybe we need to deprogram them. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You mean the people who want the Constitution to be supreme, they should be reprogrammed? You're going to see a very different outcome because of this administration here in our own country. There is going to be, God forbid, terrorist activity in our own country.
Everyone has to stay vigilant, has to stay aware, and has to stay prayerful. I mean, that's, in these dark, dark times, that's really the only thing that makes one feel better.
And be a light.
Paying attention, staying connected with God. That's right. And do what you can, like Glenn always does in these tragedies with his charity. Thank you for coming on, my friend. Great to see you.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye.
We're going to be right back with Eli Lake and some unbelievable news that I want to show to you. When you find out the slimy blue laundry detergent from the supermarket is full of toxic and dangerous chemicals, well, it may be time to find something else. Then get this, the eco-friendly brands are super expensive, and many just don't get the job done at all. So this is why I'm happy to tell you about Truly Free. Not only is Truly Free perfectly safe and free from toxic chemicals, it actually works. And friends of the show, get an amazing deal today. Go to trulyfree.com/MK and get started for as little as $5 for 50 loads of non-toxic laundry soap while supplies last. Remember, don't buy expensive store-bought toxic chemicals ever again. Make the switch by going to trulyfree.com/MK. trulyfree.com/MK and get started for just $5. We are following some breaking news at this hour. The U.S. State Department just announced at least 22 Americans have now died in the Hamas terror attacks in Israel. That's up from 14 that we knew about yesterday. In addition, we are continuing to monitor what is happening in northern Israel. Just a short time ago, Israel's Defense Forces account on Twitter warned of, quote, suspected infiltration from Lebanon into Israeli airspace. There are videos circulating online of sirens going off like this one. Joining me now, Eli Lake. He's a contributing editor at Commentary and host of the podcast, The Re-Education with Eli Lake. Eli, I begin with you, the same place I started with Glenn Beck a half an hour ago, and that is, if this is now turning into a two-front war with Hezbollah and Lebanon coming across the northern border, what does it mean?
Well, I think it means it's more than a two-front war. It's a regional war because Hezbollah is a cat's paw of Iran. There has been reporting that the Iranians planned or helped plan and approved the Hamas slaughter and pogrom. You're seeing the sermons of Iranian clerics at the moment that are, calling, as you said in the last segment, for, kind of everyone to rise up, predicting the end of Israel. I do think that at this point, Israel has to look at this as a regional war, and it's the two-front war for Israel, but it really is a regional war.
Here at home, there are concerns in many corners, and one of them is what happened in Dearborn, Michigan last night. I realize there are some people domestically who are pro-Palestinian, but that is a very different thing than in the wake of this terrorist attack, saying anything in defense of Hamas, which is recognized by our own government as a terrorist group. Here is just a flavor of what happened at this pro-Palestine rally in Michigan last night, SOT 14.
We are not going to be intimidated by staying silent when they say Hamas is a terrorist organization. The fact it is not a terrorist organization. And we have to say to them, the terrorist is Benjamin Netanyahu and his government.
I mean, it was a packed house in support, cheering for this message in the wake of what we just saw, to say Hamas is not a terrorist organization.
I would say this, that the speaker that you just saw, the college students who have, expressed their solidarity, Black Lives Matter in Chicago with their tweet that had the hang glider saying Free Palestine. These people in the left and outside of, the area are traitors, not just to the Palestinian cause. They are false friends. What Hamas has done, and if it's true that it was on behalf of Iran, is going to bring misery to Palestinians, full stop. It's going to diplomatically and internationally isolate the Palestinian movement. It does not accomplish anything. And it is, in my view, racist to assume that Palestinians are savages and would endorse the savagery of the groups that purport to rule them. So when I see that man saying that Hamas are not terrorists and the real terrorist is Israel, I think as a Jew that it's disgusting, but I also think, just as a human being, that this is no friend of the Palestinians. This is not somebody who has the best interests of Palestinians in mind. This is somebody who is reveling and glorying the murder of Jews, and it's disgusting.
The report just breaking now via I-24 News. The Israeli Defense Force says it has not identified any impact and no reports of wounded following drone infiltration alerts in northern Israel. So we heard the sirens and we saw the initial reports, but they're not identifying any wounded or impact from the infiltration so far. That story is developing, and we'll see where it goes. The leftist lawmakers seem to be really struggling right now on how to message this, Eli. I bring you Ed Markey, who is holding an event, senator from Massachusetts, yesterday. Elizabeth Warren is right behind him, and he decides to hit on the de-escalation message. It was just Monday. He decides to hit on the de-escalation. I mean, this is before Israel's even had a chance to do anything in response to the attack on it. But listen to how it went. Listen to how this went.
There must be a de-escalation of the current violence. The United States should...
He looks befuddled. And you know this is a left-wing crowd. Who else shows up to listen to Ed Markey and Senator Elizabeth Warren speak?
I think that the moment has really, I think what we heard there is zombie peace processing. I mean, this is the talking points of 25 years ago and the Clinton administration, the cycle of violence, looking at root causes of savagery. And, it's hard to sort of let it go, has been the talking point now for the Democrats. And, at some, 10, 15 years ago, Republicans too. And it no longer applies. These people have shown us who they are, and we have to act accordingly. I think the Benjamin Netanyahu and Israeli spokesman have been right when they say that Hamas is like ISIS. I would say that, they are like, the sort of savage hordes throughout human history, whether they're the Mongols or the Romans or the Mesopotamians. But the only thing you can do in the face of such evil is to wipe it out.
The media is complicit in that same message that Ed Markey just attempted. Not only do they try to downplay the evils of Hamas by, the way they reference Hamas, but they are very pro de-escalation as a norm and will probably quickly switch to that message entirely. I'll give you just a couple of examples that jumped out at me. New York Times. They published a story, Hamas leaves trail of terror in Israel, and in it they referred to Hamas terrorists. Then they changed, this is via Greg Price on Twitter, then they changed it to Hamas leaves trail of terror in Israel and changed it from Hamas terrorists to Hamas gunmen. Even the president is saying terrorists. It's okay, New York Times, you can say it. Up north, the Canadian Broadcasting Corp, which is even further left than MSNBC, if that's possible, they sent out a memo that was leaked, their director of journalistic standards, to all their journalists saying, do not refer to militants, soldiers, or anyone else as terrorists. They say that's opinion, not fact. Even the Canadians and their government recognize Hamas as a terrorist group. So why won't they write it?
I mean, I could argue that I agree with the CBC. We shouldn't call them terrorists. We should call them diabolical barbarians. I mean, are you serious? This is ridiculous. Was anybody having this discussion after 9/11 about Al-Qaeda? Was anybody having this discussion after ISIS beheads American aid workers? It's ridiculous. And it seems like it's a constant kind of double standard for Israel that's in the media. But, fortunately, the media does not really hold the same position right now in our politics and our society in the West than it did before because of, alternative, platforms like yours or the free press. And in that respect, I would just say that, it's ridiculous, but it's not as, I don't think it's as sinister as it once was, if that makes any sense.
What do you make of the anti-Semitism on display in so many corners? Because, I have to say, when I see the media so reluctant to use that term, I wonder what they actually think. I wonder whether they have sympathy for Hamas and what it just did, I have to wonder, who else would hesitate to call baby killers terrorists? And it reminded me, this is circulating on formerly Twitter, now X, last night, and I retweeted it, of this famous exchange that David Horowitz had on a university campus, I'll get the name, in 2010, where a woman who was part of the Muslim Student Association got up and tried to cross-examine him on the speech he had just given, and instead he had some questions for her, and it was chilling. We've cut a bit of it. Look at this.
I'm a student here at UCSD. I found some interesting things about the MSA, which is an organization that's very active on campus, and it is hosting our annual Hitler Youth Week. You should come out to those events.
Will you condemn Hamas here and now?
I'm sorry, what?
Will you condemn Hamas?
Would I condemn Hamas?
As a terrorist genocidal organization?
Are you asking me to put myself on a cross? If I support Hamas, because your question forces me to condemn Hamas. If I support Hamas, I look really bad.
If you don't condemn Hamas, obviously you support it. I'm a Jew. The head of Hezbollah has said that he hopes that we will gather in Israel so he doesn't have to hunt us down globally. For it or against it?
For it.
Oh, my God.
Oh my God.
I
mean, that's outrageous. I mean, that's somebody who has imbibed, the hateful fanaticism of, I guess, Islamic supremacy. There is another kind of, equally awful element of the college or academic left that has spread into other institutions, which considers Hamas to be the vanguard of armed struggle and liberation. And they justify this as, the natural response to people living under occupation. And I guess my response to that kind of argument is that the reason that Israel has to inspect goods that come in and out of Gaza is because of actions from Hamas. And this weekend was obviously the worst. But it has been happening since the group was formed in 1987.
I mean,
and also
obviously Israel's blockade is not effective enough.
Israel's not in. It's not in. It doesn't. It left. It forced settlers to leave in 2005, and the hope was that would be a step towards peace, and instead Gaza became a launching pad to attack Israel, and that's caused enormous misery for Palestinians forced to live under Hamas. And I'm aware that they won an election, very close election in 2006, of the legislature and the Palestinian Authority, but they have not stood for elections since. Neither has the PLO. But the point is that the people in Gaza haven't had a real choice for nearly 20 years. Hamas has no legitimacy. And, this is what they have been planning. And you have to ask yourself, this is if the situation in Gaza was as desperate as people on the left say it is, then how is it that the organization that runs Gaza is able to get bulletproof vests, drones, various kinds of, sensors and equipment and things to pull off such an operation like this? So it's extraordinary to kind of hear that, and it's very sad. I don't think it represents the majority of Americans by any stretch, or even really a majority of people on campus. It just needs to have more courage to confront this kind of, hate-filled bigotry.
Mm-hmm. These Students for Justice in Palestine, those are the organizations that continue signing these letters on college campuses. And I would say beware of Students for Justice for Palestine, because if you can't look at these atrocities and condemn them, there's something wrong with you.
I call them Students for Slaughter in Israel.
Yeah. You're exactly right.
That's who they are.
Before we go, Eli, how you doing? Like, this has got to be taking a toll.
It's been rough. I mean, I learned of the news right after I took my 2-year-old daughter swimming, and I just kind of hugged her and thought, there but for the grace of God. So it's been rough, and fortunately, my extended family's okay. But I know a lot of people who have relatives who have perished, and it's really terrible.
Oh, so sorry to hear it. It's, the stories of heroism coming out of Israel are just jaw-dropping too.
Agreed.
But right now, the trauma is acute and ongoing. Thinking of you. Thank you for coming on, Eli Lake. All the best to you.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I love the show.
Oh, likewise. Thank you. Love listening to you.
Sure.
When we come back, we're going to have Dr. Drew. We're going to talk a little bit about the trauma that the Israelis are going through, and maybe that you're feeling. I don't know about you. I'm feeling it. And this is just the beginning of what's going to be a long haul. So stay tuned for Dr. Drew. And don't forget, check us out on youtube.com/Megyn Kelly if you'd like to see the full video show of and the clips. Stand by. Okay, let's talk candy. Goods Candies. They are a new sponsor of the show and not your average chocolate shop. Nestled in a small town in rural Indiana, Goods Candies have been serving their community since the Great Depression. They take pride in their farmhouse-style small batch production, using only the finest premium ingredients. Trust me, when you bite into a Goods Candies creation, you will instantly taste the difference. They're delicious. They have indulgent toffees, that's my fave. Salted caramels, also in the running. All kinds of chocolates with cream centers if you like that. Raspberry, maple, mint, orange, just to name a few. Selecting your goodie bag is all part of the fun. They also do customized chocolate bars with your company logo on them. Perfect client gift, unique and delicious. And a great way for your clients to start thinking about you and your business when they're not with you. For my viewers, they have offered a 20% discount when you use the promo code MK2023 when you place your order. Website is goodscandies.com, and their email address is goodscandies@goodscandies.com. As we all deal with this horrific story out of Israel, it's important to take a look just for a minute at the mental toll that comes from both war for those in the region and for those consuming the images and video and news of it for all the rest of us. We always love talking to Dr. Drew Pinsky. He's here with us today, host of Dr. Drew podcast and much, much more. Today, he's here in the studio with me. I'm so happy to have you here, Doc.
So delighted to be here. Well, I'm delighted to be in your presence. I'm not delighted with the circumstances we are all in.
My God. I mean, usually we talk and it's somewhat, there's some levity. We cover a range of things. It just feels like today doesn't it just feel like there's a darkness, just like a pall?
Oh my gosh, yes. And your staff, it's funny that I started using that word yesterday when we were talking about coming in here. Like, it feels so dark, It is dark. And I fear the darkest hours are still ahead. That's what's almost more disturbing than anything else. And when you are confronted with these overwhelming images and sort of thoughts about what's going on, the natural thing to do is sort of dissociate from it. Like, you either disconnect from it, go, I can't deal with it, or your brain goes, somewhere else. You feel like you're out of body, like you've been in a bad car accident or something, and things feel like it's a dream. That is actually a normal defense mechanisms, but as it goes on, that actually adversely affects our brain, particularly young people's brains.
I've been thinking about it because I have a daughter and she's too quick to take on other people's heartache, and the sum of that is good. You want an empathetic person, but too much is not good.
Yes.
And I always say to her, Yards, that's not your upset. That's somebody else's upset,
Good.
Yeah. And she's getting better at it. This one, and usually I'm very good at compartmentalizing the news myself. There's just so much of it. You've got to be. This one is different, and I do think it's because of what Glenn Beck and I were discussing a moment ago, which is we're seeing the videos. You see them almost whether you want to or not. And it's like, it's the same reason I don't go to certain Twitter accounts and I don't go to certain websites, because I know that they'll put up in particular pictures of animal torture if they have a story. It's like I can't even see it. And this is human torture. And yet it's everywhere, and there's just no chance of not being affected by it.
Right. There's no chance. That is very much the point. But I'm just thinking about your daughter and children and how they're being exposed to all this as well. I'm other than being directly in the line of fire, we've never exposed young people to this kind of thing on such a mass scale. So we really don't even know what it's going to do to them in the long term. I worry about this stuff. I don't feel up to the present moment, I got to tell you. I thank you for having me in here, but this feels truly overwhelming. Like, there's just too much. I don't think any of us do. Yeah, it's too much.
What about the children? Because there's the Israeli children, of course, and then there's our kids too. But there's news that Israeli parents are furiously deleting the social media apps on their children's phone because Hamas has threatened to, as the airstrikes continue in Gaza, start executing the hostages and to broadcast it on social media. And they of course they don't want their children seeing that. Israel's not that big. The odds of them knowing somebody connected to one of these hostages are high. And then secondly, I'd love to talk about our kids back here and how much of this is appropriate to share.
Again, I think it's none of it really when you get right down to it. Like I said, we don't know the full impact of these kinds of images on children. And yet I think about my own kids. They were sort of third grade when 9/11 happened. And yet that all rained down on them. It was all television. It was not as though it was in their hand all day. But they saw plenty. And it changed their lives. It certainly changed their lives. Now, in all kinds of ways, and a lot of it is unpredictable. Who knows? Again, the thing I worry about more than anything, though, is our brains. We literally are flooded with cortisol, and we can disconnect. We can, our parasympathetic system can kick in and disconnect us from reality, from our body, from our feelings, and that on a chronic basis is not good. So I'm thinking about your daughter and her caring. We've entered this very unusual time when there's a huge value put on grandiose caring. I care, and this on this grandiose level, that is not healthy. Care about people right in front of you. I think there's a message embedded in all this, which is, and we always get to this point anyway, right? The people you love, the relationships you value, double down. Protect the people you love, get involved with them, spend more time with them, talk about these feelings and try to process them. That space of closeness we call intimacy is the way the human brain builds. It doesn't do it on its own. It needs other brains, and children need adult brains in particular. And even adults go back to that same mechanism and use other brains to help us regulate and make sense of things. So there's a sort of I don't want to say that. I'm not going to use any positive words in any of this, but there's something to be done that could help.
You mentioned 9/11, and it just jarred something in me. What we did at Fox was on the anniversary of 9/11, we would show the tape of the attacks, but the one thing we would never show was the falling man.
I know that.
It was multiple bodies, but they've become known collectively as the falling man.
And it's left from the museum and stuff too, right? It's left out. And I don't like that my kids were exposed to that, but that was the equivalent of what we're seeing. That was the part where you go, I can't handle it.
Right, so this is resonating for me because it's like all we're seeing on social media about this conflict, this attack, is basically the equivalent of the falling man.
Yeah.
It's the up-close, personal attacks on civilians. And it's not to say that it's not incredibly awful to see those planes going into the towers. It is. But it's just there's something else. It's more personal and intimate to see an individual suffering up close and personal.
Yes.
And that's what we're seing. I can't get over the body of that woman in the back of the Jeep, unnaturally curved, and them standing on her. I can't get past it. It's just like that these non-humans are roaming around us. The level of depravity.
This is the part that I'm really struggling with. I did not know that we could go back to that. I mean, I know human history is packed with people doing that sort of thing. I didn't know we're going there, and it's always the case that when your sense of reality gets a record scratch, like I didn't. It takes a while to process it. I'm not there yet. I don't know what to make of it yet. And by the way, there was another casualty in all this, which is the press. I've noticed that I am so distrustful of everything in the press, particularly in cable media and that kind of thing. I look at some of the stuff and go, well, maybe is somebody doing something to me again? Am I being manipulated? That is
true.
There were multiple casualties beyond the human casualty. Harvard University, another casualty.
Yeah.
The things that came out of the student groups the other day. Okay, you're done.
Yep.
That's it.
It was good to see, by the way. I think it was 100 professors signed a letter pushing back on those student groups. Stephen Pinker and Alan Dershowitz and others have been speaking out. All
of them, by the way, have been peripheralized by that institution, mind you, right? These are all people that have been writing public discourse and have not exactly been embraced by the mainstream at that university.
But what about the people for whom this actually does raise trauma? Like there are people,
there's a lot of us,
right? It's like people who have experienced real trauma in their lives. And it could be sexual violence, could be anything. This actually does have a way of re-traumatizing them.
100%. And I think what people don't really appreciate, I've done a lot of thinking about this, and I actually wanted to write a chapter in my book about it, and they told me it was too speculative, but the history has borne me out, which is we went through an epidemic of childhood trauma in this country. It was not normal. People went, they're just talking about it. No, No. The abandonment, neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse of children in the 60s, 70s, 80s that was unleashed in the name of a revolution. It's just, hey, they're little adults. They're sexual too. Oh boy. People went berserk with that. Then, of course, if somebody's been through that, they have about a certain percentage probability of being a perpetrator later. Then it's just awful. No fault of theirs. They were rendered that way. But again, it's their fault for not maybe dealing with it before they hurt somebody else. And as a result, we have a massive population of people with what are called narcissistic injuries, childhood trauma, and it results in a certain kind of general personality construct in this country that, let's say, is prone to rage. And when that rage develops, usually it gets acted out through scapegoating, like collecting together and scapegoating, thus cancellation. The French Revolution, it was the guillotine. And the message of history is a mathematical probability of 100% that if you are participating in the scapegoating, eventually you too will be up on the guillotine. That's just the way history works. That's the way humans work. And so we have all this going on, and now we have this incredible, extraordinary images that we're being exposed to, and of course it re-traumatized people. Now the question is, are they going to do what I was saying and really try to regroup with priorities and boundaries like you're trying to teach your daughter and work with people you're intimate with? Or are they going to become enraged and start scapegoating? And who knows where that goes? As we're seeing the press shift their emphasis, looks like the scapegoating going toward Israel now. And then 2 days ago, the scapegoating was towards the Hamas. Those are all scapegoating impulses. And and then if you're not scapegoating, you're dissociating. And dissociating is that feeling, again, I've mentioned earlier, that you're out of body, or you're watching something in a dream. And to the extent that that is a normal reaction to trauma, everybody does it. But if you're sort of using that day in and day out, it becomes destructive.
Now we get news that the head of Hamas, he was on camera calling for a national or international day of jihad on Friday. I
saw that. Go through all the borders. Did you see all that? That was very, very explicit. Yeah. I think that was for us.
Yeah, and made clear, what he wants people to do and pay in blood and treasure some deposit into the Hamas account. And there, could be some faction of radicals that actually listen. So Friday becomes a more tense day, especially for people who are Jewish here in America and elsewhere. And on college campuses, there's some, I don't even know what they're calling it, some day of solidarity tomorrow, right? So these if you're a Jewish American right now, you're facing a demonstration on your college campus pro-terrorist. Then the next day, as you go into the Sabbath for Jews, you got to worry about showing up at your synagogue, right? That it's going to get targeted. In New York, we see it. Like, you go to the Jewish Community Center, they've got those huge cement blocks out in front of it because they know already, even in peace times, they're targets. Yes. Why? Because they're Jewish. That's it. And on a day it's just like the level of trauma and concern and fright. Like, there's got to be real fear is rising. Like, I can feel it rising.
Yeah, I can't do it. But that's scapegoating. That's the same mechanism.
By whom? Who's scapegoating whom?
Somebody's scapegoating the Jews. That's always been the mechanism that they have used. That's what Hitler used. Everybody used. They use it. They take a population, they dehumanize them, and they scapegoat them. And that's how you're able to carry out terror. They are not humans in your mind, because humans are capable of dehumanizing other humans and scapegoating them for all your problems.
What about there's Scott Adams posted this online, and I'm sure you know about this drug, Captagon.
Yeah.
And there's some speculation, that's all it is, that this drug may be playing a part somehow amongst the Hamas terrorists. Yeah. What is Captagon, and why are people wondering about that?
So when you look at these behaviors of the terrorists, why? How can we call them anything else?
They're terrorists.
I don't understand, but okay, terrorists. You think to yourself, how is this possible? How could a human behave like beheaded babies and things? You think about it and you pull away, you cringe. And one of the ways through particularly 20th century history that people do stuff is with drugs. And Captagon is widely distributed through the Middle East. It's not available through the West. It's a very, when I did some research on it, it was very shrouded in sort of mystery. Like, I could not figure out why it was made illegal in the West. It was originally an amphetamine substitute. It's a prodrug. It's converted into, by your body, your liver, to amphetamine and theophylline, essentially. And in principle, it should be milder than amphetamine. Prodrugs sometimes are, but it seems to be more intense. It seems to cause more inflation, which is the really one of the dire side effects of methamphetamine in particular, which is you feel agitated and bigger than life and justified in your every move. And some sort of, again, we've talked about dissociation. There's some dissociative quality to it where you're just sort of not all there.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it actually, perhaps, whatever, but perhaps these are not normally the inhumane monsters they were on this day. Like, this drug could actually push you to do something that you wouldn't do without it.
It's highly speculative, and I think you'd have to use a lot, and you'd have to probably use it for a while to get to that point. But it's possible. It's possible. My brain is trying to wrap its head around what is going on here.
Well, and I'd rather believe that it's a drug than an actual human heart.
Right.
Behind it.
Again, look at history. I mean, the Huns and whatever, the humans have done this.
They did say that Hitler was a big fan of snorting cocaine.
And amphetamines. Amphetamines were used very widely. And military uses amphetamine. They do. It just does. But this drug in particular seems to have some mysterious properties that I couldn't fully tease out of the literature. So I'm worried. And also they say that there are some properties, some illicit manufacturing is including, quote, something else. And my suspicion is there may be like an opiate or something in there as well, which also makes you not feel anything. So,
well, we've had, as you point out, terror for a long time. Just look at ISIS. They weren't all on Captagon.
This is all that, well, it's been around since them too, but yes, I don't think they were. But this is that, again, is it not? It's just on a scale that we just can't manage.
Well, and I think about, think about the Israeli soldiers, right? On the other hand, who, I don't know that they're going to need an amphetamine, but they're going to need something. And you walk in at a kibbutz and you see 40 dead, murdered babies decapitated. That, I don't know how you come back from that. The reporter who we aired yesterday from I-24, she could barely keep it together. Doesn't sound like she saw it. Sounds like she just spoke to the soldiers who saw it, and she said they were holding each other. Like, these are young guys. Not everybody's like a seasoned, grizzly, old general who's seen it all. Like, most of these guys are relatively young, and you have to go do your couple years of military service there. They heard what was happening. They rushed to serve. They're not prepared any more than you or I are to go see this.
Yeah. It makes me wonder if there was something premeditated in that particular torture, and I don't, I'm not a military person, so I don't know, but I have lots of military friends. And the ones that really struggle with stuff will often bring up children. Like something happened to a kid. Your brain just can't regulate. It shatters.
You see that in prisons, right? Like, who are the bad convicted killers who may be serial killers going to go after? The child molester.
Yep.
Like, there's even a code amongst the worst of the worst that you don't touch children.
Mm-hmm. That's a human thing. And again, to be able to do that is the part that you just go, I can't. But then maybe there's something in it to try to disable these people that come into it.
Can I ask you a question? So yesterday we began the show with that news about the babies, and I could barely get it out. I could barely say it.
Much like that reporter. She said that she choked on it. And by the way, let's remember, was it World War I, the Belgian babies that were tortured? That got everybody into World War I. That's how they pulled everybody in.
Well, here's my question. Now, I've seen so much about it. We saw the Fox News reporter trying to get Rashida Tlaib to comment on it, and she wouldn't. I've said it in passing here on the show a few times. It doesn't seem like a phrase you should ever be able to utter casually. Beheaded babies.
No, it doesn't.
But I worry because now I myself am guilty of it. Like, I've tweeted it a couple times to shame people who are defending these Hamas terrorists. I don't understand how in the face of that kind of evil, they can't see, right, that who's in the right and who's not on this particular thing. Is there danger in repeatedly referring to something that atrocious, right, in short form or casually, to where, like, even saying it now, it's not quite as
correct.
hard as it was yesterday.
So very quickly we desensitize. So we go from dissociation and pulling away to just getting used to it.
And is that bad, or is it good, or is there not a value on it?
It's how we work. It's a mechanism that humans have to survive the everything. Let's face it. I mean, we can tolerate. We can make the extraordinary commonplace. I mean, we just get used to everything. It's how our brains operate. Is it bad? Yeah, it's bad. We should never have anything other than extraordinary disgust and moral outrage. Now, what the press is starting to do is now we're starting to see images of Palestinian children. So we're going to create this equivalency thing because the images are equivalent. The question is, how do you make equivalency out of somebody who's in person doing it versus a response that has collateralized stuff and allowing. This is the part that's troubling me right now. Is whoever's allowing these citizens to stay around targets. That's equally as disgusting.
Of course, it's 100% the Palestinians. Yeah. This is what Hamas does.
Yeah.
This is what they do. I mean, this is not speculation. They actually use their civilians as shields. They tell them not to leave the targeted areas because they're hoping they won't get targeted if they have civilians with them. And then they make sure that the local media puts the children on the air and not the fighters as they go in and out of the hospitals. It's all a propaganda war. Even some of these videos coming out of the Israelis who have been murdered are from Hamas. They're proud of it. They're trying to terrorize.
I saw a demonstration today where they were gloating over the pictures. Young males gloating over it. Look at this. This is what you deserve. It's how far are we from 1938, 1942? It's just.
You can't negotiate with that. You can't, like all these people online saying, you got to talk to them. No, there's no talking with baby killers. It's done. There's only one thing to do, and that's to annihilate them. I completely understand Israel's strategy and support it. I realize it's going to have global implications, but there's no talking to somebody like that. Israel can't go on with these people on their border. All right, stand by. We're going to squeeze in a quick break, and then we're going to come back. We're going to change the topic. We're going to talk about some of the latest COVID mania. The New York Times is still at it. It's still at it with that same reporter who's gotten so much wrong. Dr. Drew's been talking about this from the start. We'll pick it up there as we turn the page for a moment from the darkness of Israel. Stay with us. Well, I know you've heard bedding and apparel brands say, we're the most softest, we're the most comfortable, but do they actually promise it? Do they guarantee it? They put their money where their mouth is. At Cozy Earth, they do. At Cozy Earth, you get the softest, most luxurious feeling fabric guaranteed. And that means if you don't love Cozy Earth's bamboo sheets, their famous bamboo sheets, you have 100 days to get your money back. They're not worried, though, about refunds because once you try Cozy Earth, you're hooked for life. Start with Cozy Earth's best-selling bamboo sheet set, made of 100% premium viscose from bamboo. Super soft, ethically sourced sheets which regulate your temperature, keeping you cool in the summer and cozy in the winter months. And it's not just sheets. They've got pajamas, loungewear, bath towels, and much more. Unbelievably soft, unforgettably comfortable. The coziest way to make your home a sanctuary. And don't forget Cozy Earth's guarantee. All of their products can be returned or exchanged within 100 days and include an additional 10-year warranty against defects. CozyEarth.com. Enter code Megyn at checkout for up to 40% off your order. CozyEarth.com. Promo code MEGYN. CozyEarth.com. Two notes on the breaking news. I want to tell you first, this from the New York Times. After sirens throughout the north sent a shiver through Israelis fearing a possible attack from Lebanon, the Israeli military has now chalked up the alerts to an apparent malfunction. There is no security incident in Israel's north, said a military spokesman, Daniel Hargari. He added that officials had received a report about drones that the military was still looking into, and I'm sure will continue to. And a second piece of breaking news. It appears the GOP has picked its new Speaker of the House, and that man will be House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. That's very interesting. He was sort of the number two. Well, he was not sort of. He was the number two guy under Kevin McCarthy, but he's been undergoing treatment for a cancer. And so many believed he would not want or perhaps would not just win enough support for the job. We're going to cover that much more tomorrow when the Ruthless guys join us. So, Dr. Drew, we got to go over a little bit of COVID accountability.
Really quick, one first medical question. Do we know what type of cancer? Because so many cancers now are quite treatable.
My team is going to look it up.
Okay.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Because it when people hear cancer, it's not, we can do a lot with cancer these days. I'm a cancer patient. I have prostate cancer. cancer. 12 years out. It's nothing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank God.
Yeah.
We'll find out. Blood cancer.
Ooh.
Multiple myeloma. Multiple myeloma.
So there's myeloma and there's myeloma. It's not a very treatable condition, really. We like to think we treat it, and sometimes we probably are, but it's usually kind of smoldering too. It doesn't torch out very quickly.
My first reaction is you don't want to see a doctor make the face you just made when you say you're kind of cancer. Oh.
Yeah, well, it's myeloma is because mostly I was thinking about how am I going to present this, because it probably soon is going to be a highly treatable cancer.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, fingers crossed. And say a prayer for Steve Scalise. He's got a lot on his plate. Okay. So this is what an honest doctor sounds like when they tell you they don't know, or this is what they're wrestling with.
It's irrational uncertainty, Megan. That is what science is about. Skepticism and rational uncertainty. We've been through this bizarre 3 years of irrational certainty.
Yes.
Dr. Fryman framed that for me that way. I was like, oh God, you are so right.
I love it.
It is irrational to be certain about any of this. And so please, everybody, stop it.
So the person who's more certain than any of us is not a doctor.
Correct.
She is a reporter for the New York Times, and amazingly, she still has her job despite so many embarrassing reports that they've had to take down.
Hold on. Let's call it what it is. Misinformation.
Yeah, I mean...
It's misinformation.
With a capital M.
If that's what we're going to call being wrong, we call them being right misinformation, by the way. So what are we going to call being wrong?
She just runs with it. I mean,
yeah.
she doesn't even pause anymore,
Correct.
notwithstanding her many misinformation incidents. Her name is Apoorva Mandavili. And this is the person who grossly overstated the number of children who were hospitalized by a factor of like 900 times thanks to COVID. I mean, over and over again, she makes mistakes to be charitable, and they're always in the direction of COVID hysteria.
Of course.
So she's still on the beat. Just a couple days ago in the New York Times, she prints, feeling terrible about your COVID shot, then it's probably working. And she goes on about how it just means you have a vigorous immune response and you have more antibodies. And somebody who we both really love and respect, Vinay Prasad, one of the good doctors on COVID. He's not a lunatic one way or the other. He's been so measured.
He is an oncologist. He's an academic oncologist who I found years before COVID. He had a podcast called Plenary Sessions where he would evaluate medical literature. He is clairvoyant, and I don't mean literally, but his ability to penetrate medical literature. It caught me right away when I found that podcast 5 years ago. And then he became a rational skeptic, in regard to COVID, and now he's been on the warpath a little bit lately.
He's great. Well, now he sees. I mean, now we have the evidence of how wrong everybody was, and he was on it. So he tweets out, "Dear New York Times, this is an appeal to the real journalists and editors who work there. Please take a look at the several articles I have written about errors by Apoorva Mandavili. These are basic journalistic errors that mislead the public. Come on, you must want to be balanced." Oh, Vinay. Journalism is not just advocacy for the misguided. And then he goes on to say, please look at her articles more closely. Sincerely, a concerned doctor and researcher. They don't want to be balanced. They don't care about misleading the public. Notwithstanding, Dr. Drew, I do listen to their podcast, The Daily, usually most mornings, because I like to get my news from the left and the right. And I heard this. This was not part of the actual podcast. This is like a promotional ad that was run in between content. Listen to what they said just today.
I'm Brian Rosenthal. I'm an investigative reporter at the New York Times. The New York Times does not publish until we can prove that something is true.
They do not publish until they can prove something is true. Has that been your experience with Apoorva Mandavili and COVID, and anybody at the New York Times and COVID?
It's why I stopped reading the New York Times. I started realizing I was being misled a lot of the time. And I just, that is an astonishing statement that they could say that. And by the way, prove that something is true, that already is that irrational certainty. We can ascend to the truth. We cannot prove the truth. And by the way, I could just got to talk about that all day, but that is disgusting, frankly.
Yeah.
And when I got first thoroughly disgusted with the New York Times is when their editorial board demanded lockdown, and I thought, why do you have a seat at the table? You've suddenly learned about this non-pharmacological intervention and you have an opinion about it? You should not. Same thing happened with medications that became words that you were unable to speak. You literally, if you spoke the word of certain medication names, you'd be deplatformed.
Yeah, that's right. And now they're being recommended.
Yeah. Yeah, and these are inert medicines. They're nothing. And I remind people that. Can I say the I word? Am I allowed to say?
Yeah, you can go for it. Say it loud and proud.
If you're an asylum seeker for other countries, the CDC requires you to take 5 days of ivermectin. You're immediately given the ivermectin for 5 days because it's nothing. And hydroxychloroquine, that's a medicine that we as physicians are told to keep our lupus patients on during pregnancy. That is the only medication I'm aware of that is recommended to continue during pregnancy.
Wow.
I mean, just blanket. I don't think pregnant women should do anything to their biology. Personally, that's just me. It makes me nervous. But here's a medication that people who just learned to pronounce the word, had massive certain opinions about it.
Yep.
We should be very unhappy with that. And this is more of the same with what she's doing.
And it's not just, of course, the New York Times. You know, we talked on the show recently about Travis Kelce, the football player out there. He says, I want to be known as Mr. Pfizer. Great. I want to be known as Mr. Pfizer. He's pimping out the Pfizer vaccine. I had criticism for him because who watches Travis Kelce? It's young men. That's who looks at him as a hero. Those are the least likely to need it and the most likely to be hurt by all these, the seventh booster. And this is something Vinay Prasad's been doing a very good job of calling attention to, the risk of myocarditis in young men. And I got some blowback for it. I mean, nothing, you've been there. But the point is, like, the people who were mad that I was criticizing this were like, the vaccines have saved far more people than they've hurt. And many more people get myocarditis from the vaccine than get it, or they get it from COVID than get it from the vaccine. Okay. And my point has been, okay, at this point in 2023, almost 2024, everyone's had COVID.
Correct.
These vaccines don't prevent the spread. So Correct. If you have natural immunity, and most people have had shots. So at this point, if you are a 19-year-old man who's looking up to Travis Kelce, you may have had a vaccine and you almost definitely had COVID. Why the hell would you get another booster, increasing your risk of heart scarring? Why would you do that?
Well, there's a lot packed into that. And let me just conclude my little diatribe about hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. I'm not fans of those medicines. I don't think they do much. We have a different medicine that works like crazy. I use it in my elderly patients all the time. It is called Paxlovid. And if you're so worried about having a severe episode of COVID and you're a 40-year-old male, let's say, you need not worry about that now because we have Paxlovid. Now, it's only been studied over 60 and 65, but people are using it in middle-aged people all the time, and it works. So why the push for the vaccine? Why the mandates for the vaccine? And that is the part that is extraordinary. So I want to fill in some of the details of what you were just saying. We don't know. Well, let's say it's true that you're more likely to get myocarditis from COVID than the vaccine, which is not clear. That's not clear. Mm-hmm. Making a healthy person sick because of an intervention we do as physicians, do no harm, is completely violated by that principle. It's by the COVID vaccine. The principle is violated. So we are making a healthy person sick. Okay, that is a problem. Number two, it's more common than we thought. And if you remember when this was starting to percolate up, people were like, well, it's mild, it's no big deal, it's self-limited, blah, blah. Look, in my world, throughout my entire career, 40-year career, myocarditis is a medical emergency. It's a dire problem. And a publication just came out 5 days ago in Circulation, a major cardiology journal. It's called Circulation. An excellent study, and it took my breath away. I didn't know why it wasn't headline news. I suppose it has to be reproduced, which I totally endorse, but the study itself took my breath away. It was a large study, and it showed that approximately half of the young males that got myocarditis had permanent heart damage. Yep. Permanent. That means that we don't know what percentage are going to be disabled by this as they get older, are going to develop heart failure, or going to need cardiac transplants, some of them. Oh my God. It's breathtaking, this study, and why it wasn't a big headline. I've sort of sent it around a little bit because I don't understand why people aren't reacting to it. And one study does not truth make, right? You want to be skeptical, you should be. It needs to be reproduced. But this was a terrible, terrible thing. So my question is, and by the way, just for the full record, my elderly patients are all fully vaccinated, and those that want the boosters, they get the boosters. I've seen almost no adverse event in the elderly patients, so some of them are starting to say that maybe something is going on, but we're watching that. And they benefited because elderly people have a lot to gain. You're 85 years old and you get COVID, it's a serious thing. Mm-hmm. So the risk of the vaccine is worth it. In a 27-year-old male, the illness is a nothing. So the vaccine is all risk.
Right.
Why the push? Why are we pushing? And I think, put your legal head on for a second, that universities are going to be in big trouble for having mandated young people to get that vaccine, because people are going to get sick and they're going to have long-term consequences, and they should sue those schools for having forced them to take a medical intervention.
100% they should sue. And if anybody tries to force you from this point forward, get a fake card. It's not that hard. Go ahead, Google it, get a fake card.
And again,
don't comply.
We have a good treatment. We have Paxlovid. Why? And people have all kinds of feelings.
You have to say you've gotten the shot to get in.
Right.
Get a fake one. Just Google it on the internet. It's bullshit. If they're going to create these bullshit rules, you can create your bullshit way around them. It's all just like a theater. So let's act. I'll act like I've gotten my 50th booster, and you can act like you're satisfied I'm telling you the truth. Okay. Sorry, that's how I feel. We've got some guests in the studio. They're on my side.
Just consult with the attorney here if you get in any trouble.
Yeah, that's right. I got you. I do want to talk about, deaths, because every other week, there's somebody in the news who had like a heart attack and went down on a football field or a baseball field or just in the news or what have you, men and women. And my friends and I are having this debate. Is it more than it's ever been? Or are we just seeing it more because of social media and because people are, they're on edge thanks to all the COVID vaccinations and COVID itself? What's your take on that?
Excess deaths are up. They're up in people under 40. Why is this not an international crisis? And why are we not trying to figure out what is in there in those excess deaths and why are they happening? A guy named Ed Dowd I've been working with on my podcast regularly, and he's a numbers guy. He's a financial analyst, but he noticed these trends, and he has all these actuarial friends and insurance companies friends, and they were telling him, "Oh yes, there's a problem. We're going to be follow the money. They're going to start charging more insurance to compensate for this." So there is something going on. People are quick to dismiss it as, oh, well, of course, the lockdowns caused mental health problems and the substance use and the fentanyl, which surely are in there. But when they have teased it out a bit, that's not all that's in there. That's not. There's a lot more stuff going on. And why are people not urgently? The level of, by the way, excess deaths, it's not like it was during the pandemic, but usually after pandemic, excess death goes down because vulnerable people die in the pandemic. And so those people that would have died in that following year don't die, but it's gone up and stayed up. It's shocking. People correlate it with this is a correlation, not a causation. Be careful, everybody. You can track it to the beginning of the distribution of the vaccine.
What do you know about blood clots in women? Because now we are getting reports of irregular menstrual cycles,
Confirmed.
Like excessive bleeding by women after they take the vaccine. Even the officials are now acknowledging this, and I think that gets a lot of women thinking about, like, if it's changing the blood in my body, and does that mean it's changing my clotting? And
boy, there's a lot packed into that.
that.
First of all, I want to talk about the women part of this, because I am dead guilty on this. I was talking to Naomi Wolf, and she brought this up, and I went, "No, Naomi, women's periods, almost anything changes them. Come on. Yes, they got a treatment, and okay." Do you realize how sexist that is when a male does that?
It's not sexist. I raised this with Brett Weinstein. I poo-pooed him raising this early in the pandemic, and I'm pro-woman.
Well, good.
So
you're making me feel better.
Yeah,
I felt very guilty for that because I was dismissive, and I should have just listened and and she's made a lot of it. And it turns out it's true, number one, and a lot of women are having real concerns about it because it's persistent enough that it's affecting fertility. And the mechanisms are not yet fully worked out. They've found spike protein in the ovaries. It accumulates there. They think that might be part of it. Liquid nanoparticles, the shell of the vaccine is also found in the ovaries. As well, they're finding, as you're suggesting, microclots in the uterus that might be increasing to the sloughing. We don't know yet because no one's doing the right studies. And there is here's another issue you probably don't know, but that has me more, as a physician, almost more concerned than anything. And I've talked to RFK Jr. about this, and he is clear that something is up. There's something up with the major medical journals where the editorial process has become adulterated. In my 40-year career, I read the medical lit, I pore over it, I read it carefully. And there has always been a back and forth on any topic in the medical literature. It's not, things don't go automatically to the truth, as we were saying earlier. There's a back and forth in the literature. This is so, it is not so. This data is looking encouraging, this data looks not so encouraging. It has gone one way since the beginning of COVID, and ne'er the twain shall meet. You're not allowed to bring up anything else. Great example of this was that Danish physician that did the study on the fact that early on in the distribution of the COVID vaccine, 10% of the vials of the product was responsible for 90% of the adverse effects. There was an excellent done study.
Wow.
Took her 2 years to get that published. They should have been running to try to figure out, well, what happened here? What's going on? Why did this happen? Instead, they're like, oh, no. Nothing to see here.
Well,
so there's something up.
So you've got the medical journals,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, we saw that just in the, willingness to run cover for Dr. Fauci. No lab leak.
Well,
no, that's racist.
that was Nature, though. That was a scientific journal. But Lancet publishing that article, what was it? Where they invented an organization that it was nonsense, total nonsense.
So you've got those publications.
Yeah.
You've got, of course, the New York Times and the mainstream media. That's still, it's still controversial for me to say. Why is he being a Pfizer poster boy? Why is he telling young men that they need their sixth booster? It's BS. No, all the pushback. You're not allowed to say that. And that leads us, and not to mention the undermining of public health trust. That's gone.
And like I said earlier, the media. I don't trust anything now about Israel. I can't trust anything about anything.
Right. So the hangover from the dishonesty here is
massive.
It's still with us.
Yeah. Oh.
To the point where you sat down and said, my first instinct is, are they trying to hurt me? What are they doing
to me? They're manipulating me. What are they doing?
Right.
What are they doing to me? I feel manipulated. What's happening?
So if you were, let's say, we get a different president elected there in 2024 and they called you up and said, Dr. Drew, how do we rebuild this?
Oh.
Is there a way? Is it too late?
Well,
RFKJ needs to win?
Well, he said something that caught my attention. I don't know who I want to vote for. I'm so moderate. I'm swimming in all this myself. I can't pick a direction, frankly. But he said something that caught my attention. He said, I'm going to call the 3 major medical journals in, and I'm going to say I'm going to prosecute under the RICO laws unless you clean this up and tell me exactly why you've been this way and what's going on and what's motivating you and what your financial interests are and who's been muscling you, and then I'll think about not prosecuting you.
Oh. That's exciting.
That's good, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's a lawyer, so he
could still do it even if he's not president, by the way.
Right.
But
at least DeSantis said he would make him in charge of some agency or use him in the DeSantis administration. I don't know about Trump. They're getting ready to unleash hell on RFKJ with some sort of Oppo research dump because he's worried about him stealing from him if he becomes the GOP nominee as running an independent or libertarian, what have you. In any event, to full disclosure, I'm moderating a panel with him on October 28th in San Jose with him and Nassim Malhotra. Have you interviewed Nassim yet? No.
A cardiologist who started raising the flags about the cardiac effects of the vaccine early, and so
I'm interested in what you just said. Are you considering voting for Joe Biden?
No.
Yeah, I was like, how?
I'm sort of considering not voting. I think is what I'm considering.
I know.
Really, I don't feel like I'm. I just feel a wash in all of this.
Steyerwalt was on the show last week, and he said, Chris Steyerwalt, and he said, there's a Republican Party, and there's a Democrat Party, and then there's a certain amount of Americans in the I want to puke party.
That's me.
Yeah.
I've been independent for a long time. In California, you can re-register every 10 minutes if you want. So I've registered all over the place many times. But I've generally been independent. The problem with independent is they stick you in the independent party, which is a different thing. You have to really make sure you
can't vote in primaries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I don't. I'm just sitting here looking at the excesses on both sides, and I'm want to puke.
I know.
So.
The thing is, it's like I've got my problems with Trump for sure. His temperament, infamously, that's what I asked him about, and that's one of them. But you think about what's happening right now with Israel, and does anybody believe this would have happened had Trump been in office? I don't believe that for 1 second.
Yeah.
I think we were safer.
It would have been different, that's for sure.
They're afraid of him. He's too unsteady, which is a good thing when it comes to foreign policy. Yeah. It may not be so great when it comes to his Twitter feed and keeping the American psyche at ease over the course of the presidency. But when it comes to foreign policy, that same destabilizing effect he has on us, he has on them, and that's good.
Yeah.
So but I just feel like with Joe Biden, I feel like his foreign policy has been an absolute disaster, and I've become a single issue voter on the transing of children, like the surgeries on children before they hit age 18 just seem absolutely barbaric to me.
Well, my fundamental position on that is that these are medical interventions, the surgeries, the medication, the hormones. These are doctors prescribing, surgeons executing the surgeries. And I've seen them benefit people. I have. You have to be very open to the idea that there are certain people for whom these interventions are beneficial. I've also seen disasters, which means that we aren't getting it right as doctors. We have not picked the right treatment for the right patient.
I think the doctors are even trying. Most of them are just
that's
they're on
that's a much bigger problem. If we don't get it clear that not every patient is the same, not every treatment is the same. You have to get the right treatment for the right patient in the right order at the right time in their life, and that is on us. And when we do harm, again, this do no harm has been cast out the window in the last 5 years. It's just I live by that, and that's just simply gone now. And so you have to pick a side and pick a narrative and forge on. And that is where people get hurt, both on the COVID side and on the transition side.
So rounding back to, what you were saying about the ongoing depression and so on coming out of COVID and these sort of deaths of despair that we've seen, and now the Israel thing. People are, I'm sure, feeling down, depressed. Like this, the news cycle can do that to you.
Oh, boy.
Never mind your COVID hangover and the changes to your life. So what should people do? Right? Like what are some things they can think about doing?
I hinted at it earlier, which was spend time with people you care about. That is how humans heal. That is how humans find meaning.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
So I've been trying to avoid my children because I've just been in such a dark mood. I don't want.
Well, that's a little different.
I don't want to be like the pig pen cloud over them. It's the world is horrible.
No, I understand that. I spend time with other adults before you go to the kids.
Yeah.
Regulate that stuff.
But then when I sit at dinner with them and I hear about their wonderful lives, my daughter's in a school play, and then I'm like, oh yes, this is good. But I shouldn't speak. I should just let them speak.
Well, that's good. That's good, and it's feeding them and you, right? It's doing both, but it's perspective taking. It's being grateful for what you have. It's having faith in something greater than yourself. These are all basic principles that humans need to be healthy. And I've noticed, I come in and out of this city all the time, and I've noticed things are not good here. Things are changing, and I think the Israel thing put everybody even more on edge. But I also noticed people forging ahead. I hope they continue, that businesses are still opening. People are going out to the restaurants. People are spending that time breaking bread with other people. That to me, it just hit me last night because I was feeling all the negative up until last night. And I was looking around and I thought, no, there's a driving force here. I'm not sure. I'll tell you my full thought. My full thought was, that's people in their middle ages. That's sort of, it's not the younger folk. They're I don't know what's going on with them. We got to get them onto the ship here.
They need to start having more sex.
That would help. That would really. I can talk all about that too.
They're not having any sex. That's what all the studies show.
That's correct.
It's depressing.
And it's depressing. It's astonishing. There's a lot. You want us to go down that road? Because there's a lot in there.
How much time do we have, Steve? Just make sure I know.
2 minutes? Okay, 2 minutes. He's holding up a 2.
He's good.
So, because I have millennial kids and stuff, and I was around all the millennials. It started with the males wanting to be good guys. They didn't want to be seen as toxic. They didn't want to be seen as predatory. And this was all going on when they were in high school and college. And certainly they wouldn't want to be seen handing a woman a beer or an alcohol and then talking to them because you could be seen as predatory. And as a result, they missed some of the milestones of development, of forming relationships, of learning how to date. These are healthy things that they just missed because they were just honkered down and frightened and fearful of being seen as somehow a toxic male. I started seeing some things happen a few years ago. By the time they hit their sort of mid to late 20s, they would get obsessed about somebody. They didn't know how to sort of measure a relationship and whether it's going to work. They would just they become their best friend and start stalking to them. Any of you in your 30s that has a best friend male, he's stalking you. Trust me. There's a lot of that involved. Not that he's a bad stalker, he's a good stalker, but he really wants to be your boyfriend and he doesn't know how to do it. And so this is all what's underneath some of that. And of course, having sex then is ultimately how they can get themselves in trouble. So they're very careful about that.
Well, I mean, look, I like a committed relationship. I know.
Yeah, me too. No. But to get there, you have to learn how to form and break relationships and know who you are.
No, but this is what I'm going to say. Just because, if you're worried about seeming toxic, get to know the girl, take her out on dates, develop a relationship.
Already bad.
Right?
Date. The word date. No. We don't do that. We don't do that.
And by the way, you also need to have your heart broken. It's an important part of becoming a functioning adult.
Yes,
and developing empathy and cutting you down from thinking you're all that in a biscuit, right? You need to have a couple of humbling experiences along the way, whether they're in the bedroom or on the way.
Correct.
Dr. Drew, so fun.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks
Pleasure.
for helping us laugh. And have a
So great to
moment.
see you in person of all this time. So
Likewise.
privilege.
And don't forget to tune in to the Dr. Drew show. He had Rob Schneider on there yesterday, who also got in trouble on the COVID nonsense.
We went over the New York Times article that vilified both of us, and we were right on every single point. It was crazy.
Right again.
Yeah.
All right, Dr. Drew, all the best. Great to see you. 60 Minutes is back in the news. Amazingly, they still won't release the transcript of their interview with Kamala Harris. This is bizarre. This is getting truly bizarre to me that they're holding on to this thing like it's the Holy Grail and we're not allowed to see it. They come out with a statement now, because just to refresh the readers, I know they know, but for those who have forgotten, because you're living your lives and not obsessing about this stuff like we are. Kamala Harris went on 60 Minutes. Kamala Harris gave this word salad answer in response to questioning over Israel and Netanyahu. And we know that she gave a word salad answer that made no sense because 60 Minutes used that clip as the tease of its interview, and they ran it on their Sunday show, I think Face the Nation, and then again on Monday before they aired the actual interview with Kamala Harris, or what purported to be the actual interview with Kamala Harris. Then when we got to 60 Minutes, they played that same Q&A, but her answers were different. She had a different answer in which she sounded much more cogent. And people started to say, what happened? What happened to the word salad answer? And what does 60 Minutes do to try to make her look better? Turned into a whole thing. They wouldn't comment on it, yada, yada. Trump demanded an investigation. Trump said they should have their license pulled. Okay. And it hasn't subsided. There's been calls even from the outside, former 60 Minutes or CBS employees demanding that an investigation be held, or at least that they release the transcript. If there's nothing to hide, just release the transcript and this whole thing goes away if you didn't do anything unethical. So finally, they issue a statement. They do not release the transcript, nor even, a more robust exchange or transcript of what happened in that segment of the interview. All they do is put out the following. Former President Donald Trump is accusing 60 Minutes of deceitful editing of our October 7th interview with Kamala Harris. It's not just Donald Trump. I mean, it's gone well beyond Donald Trump. That is false, the deceitful editing charge. 60 Minutes gave an excerpt of our interview to Face the Nation that used a longer section of her answer than that on 60 Minutes. Same question, same answer. So they want us to take their word for the fact that the super short phrase that was used in the actual interview did come from the same answer as the word salad did. Now, what we saw in 60 Minutes was not just like 10 words that we heard in the 40-word salad version that came out the day before. They weren't in the first word salad answer, which is why a lot of us were like, where did that come from? Did that even come from the same answer? Or did it come from later down in the transcript? They seem to be saying it came from the same answer, but there's absolutely no proof of that, just 60 Minutes words that it was in response to the same question and part of the same answer. So honestly, then at least put out a transcript of the full answer. Just do that. At a minimum, just do that. Put out a transcript of the full answer so we can see where you pulled from. And how much more was there, by the way? Was there a whole bunch more? How much did you do to cover up for her and make her sound more cogent, again, than she was? So they say same question, same answer, but a different portion of the response. When we edit any interview, whether a politician, athlete, a movie star, we strive to be clear, accurate, and on point. The portion of her answer on 60 was more succinct, which allows time for other subjects in a wide-ranging 21-minute-long segment. Then, amazingly, they go back to this. Remember, Mr. Trump pulled out of his interview with 60 Minutes and the vice president participated. Our long-standing invitation to former President Trump remains open. If he would like to discuss the issues facing the nation and the Harris interview, we would be happy to have him on 60 Minutes. Just in case you had any doubt, Emily, of their hackery, they begin and end with Donald Trump. Trump is the one making the accusation. No, it's most of the nation at this point who sees what you did, at least the right half. And it ends with, he's the one who pulled out of his interview. And if he has something he wants to say, he can say it to our face. That's really what they did here. What do you make of it?
What? Yeah, and remember 60 Minutes, the reason Donald Trump pulled out of the interview is because of how terrible of a job you have done through his argument. That's the crucial part of this. He didn't just pull out of the interview. He's making an argument himself that they have done a horrible job covering his career, covering his politics since 2016, since that Leslie Stahl hatchet job. Like Donald Trump, it's not just coming out of absolutely nowhere. They've been more favorable to Kamala Harris than they have to Donald Trump. So if you're going to throw that jab, I mean, again, I think it makes them look bad. It makes them look bitter, and it makes them look like they're doubling down on something that most people would look at and say, all right, obviously there's a problem. We saw A, we saw B, and you're not letting us see the actual transcript itself. So we know that there's a discrepancy. You've already proven that. You've already proven one part that you aired is different than the spirit of another part that you aired. You've already proven that the editing is deceptive. So, because we know, we know what one of the answers looked differently than the other answer. So we know that there was manipulation, period. And the only way to disprove this would be to release the transcript, and you won't do that. And I think maybe the bigger picture part of this is CBS, and I would say a lot of other dinosaurs of corporate media, but especially those broadcast networks, are not remotely prepared for this new era of news consumer. They don't understand this generation of news consumer. They think they can get away with this by doubling down instead of losing the trust of actually probably millions of people around the country who are looking at this and are saying, wow, you manipulated this. And by the way, people on both sides of the Israel thing who are upset about this. So there's a lot of young people who don't agree with us on these issues and are looking at CBS from the left and are upset about it. I mean, I don't blame them. They're such dinosaurs. They think they can get away with this. They're not prepared that now everybody is used to full transcripts. Everybody wants full transcripts. They're used to it. They're used to seeing Trump on Theo Vaughn or Kamala Harris even on Call Her Daddy, whatever. They can't get away with this stuff anymore.
I was saying to our team, Eliana, that, I mean, of course, I've been a part of countless interviews on camera of people where they're pre-taped and the person goes on and on. I mean, I'll tell you a famous one with Donald Trump. Back in the 2016 election, I said, Mr. Trump, would you give me an interview? And he said, sure, but do me a favor. I don't want to be edited, because we had to pre-tape it. He couldn't do it when I was live on the air. And I said, no, I don't agree. And he's like, I don't want to be edited. I'm like, well, I can't just cede the show to you. You know, we have to do it. I will edit it, but I will make sure all of your points, the substantive points are included, which is what happened. And sure enough, when I sat down with Trump, all he kept saying was two things: China, 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 and the wall, the wall, the wall. And that's fine. We cut it down. He wanted me to have him reference those points 500 times. And in the end, it only wound up being like 15 each. Okay. So that's normal. We do that all the time in television. But what's not normal is to take a piece of the answer that is not connected to the answer that you've released as the answer and sub it in as the new answer in a way that reflects better on the candidate. And then part two is when it blows up in your face and people are accusing you of trying to help her as partisan hacks, to not just say, I've got nothing to hide here. I mean, I happily released that whole transcript of Trump, China, China, China 500 times. You'd be bored to tears, but you'd be thanking me for what I did there. But they won't. They won't even release the full transcript of this Q&A, Eliana, which is very strange and suggests to me they do have something to hide.
So there are a lot of different angles to this. The first is about the answer itself. And CBS's statement says, look, we did this for time. Well, actually, let me take a step back. It's interesting that they essentially address their statement to Trump. Sure, they do owe Donald Trump an explanation, but they really owe an explanation to their viewers, many of whom have raised questions about this. And so I do think it's a red herring in their statement that they focus on Trump. Second, with regard to the answer to this question itself, they say, we made this edit for the sake of time, which of course, everybody knows that 60 Minutes edits. But what is atypical here is that They teased one answer and they aired another. And that is not typical. And that is why people raised questions and became confused. And I found it striking that they don't cop to any error there. There was obviously a mistake made. I wouldn't be surprised if both clips are actually from the same answer, but clearly somebody made a mistake here inside of CBS. I'm sure this is not how they planned for everything to go. And then they end the statement by complaining that Trump didn't grant them an interview when he doesn't owe them anything. And that was really off key to me. He does not owe CBS News a sit down. They, in fact, owe people an explanation for the mistake that was made here. And I do think it's important to note that this is happening against the backdrop of another scandal that's playing out at CBS, which is that the network president and the head of news called morning news anchor Tony Dockapil on the carpet for his interview with Ta-Nehisi Coates. And then the largest shareholder of Paramount, which owns CBS News, Shari Redstone, said she sided with Tony Dockapil on this. And that has been a very public scandal playing out. And so something is not right with CBS, the leadership of CBS, to have these two highly public scandals playing out in the newspapers 2 weeks before a presidential election. Not good.
Yeah, no, there's definitely something very sketchy going on at CBS. They're in the midst of some sort of crisis. And I don't know, I guess we can assume, if they say so, that the answer we got on 60 came from the actual answer to the question, but I'm not sure I'm ready to give them any benefit of the doubt.
We don't know. I mean, the other thing that's odd about this is that typically it's the candidate and the interview subject that actually wants the whole transcript published. And they're saying, I was deceptively edited. That actually happened to Mike Johnson a couple of days later, where he released the full tape. There was somebody on his side who had taped the whole thing. That's very typical for an interview subject. They're taping the whole thing. And he did it and showed how he was edited. It's weird that there's not a peep from Harris's side. It's weird for CBS News and the Harris campaign to be taking the same position on this, which is hide the full transcript. It is bizarre to me they're not releasing the transcript. Of course. But it is atypical in these situations for the interview subject not to be the one upset by such a thing.
That's right. The one with Mike Johnson was on Face the Nation the day before with Margaret Brennan, in which he went off on how the FEMA response to Hurricane Helene has been absolutely dreadful. All cut out. I do want to show you something. So we went back to the tease clip that had been released to Face the Nation. And it's made news now because the long word salad answer on Netanyahu's not listening was removed and something more understandable was subbed in. But they also made an edit to the first question in the exchange. The first question, setting up the Israel problem, elicited a very long, rambling word salad answer too. And on that one, by the time it hit 60, they did use part of what aired on Face the Nation, but they cleaned that up too. They got rid of window dressing in front and I think of the back of it and made her sound once again cleaner. So I'm going to try to show this to you. Let's just start with the first question that was aired on Face the Nation. Okay, the question would wind up the same on 60 Minutes, but the answer would change. This one hasn't gotten that much attention, but I'm just showing you each time they cleaned it up, I think, to make her look better. Here's the first question in the tease clip on Face the Nation.
Does the U.S. have no sway over Prime Minister Netanyahu?
The aid that we have given Israel allowed Israel to defend itself against 200 ballistic missiles that were just meant to attack the Israelis and the people of Israel. And when we think about the threat that Hamas, Hezbollah presents, Iran, I think that it is without any question our imperative to do what we can to allow Israel to defend itself against those kinds of attacks. Now, the work that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles which include the need for humanitarian aid, the need for this war to end, the need for a deal to be done, which would release the hostages and create a ceasefire. And we're not going to stop in terms of putting that pressure on Israel.
Okay, so here's what's interesting about that, to the point that you were just making about how she's also got trouble on her left flank, right, with the pro-Palestinian people in Michigan. They don't like her. In fact, the latest polls show that the vast majority of voters actually favor Trump over Harris when it comes to dealing with the Israel-Hamas conflict. So she's got to worry about those left flankers in Michigan. And 60 Minutes knows that. 60 Minutes wants Kamala Harris to win, make no mistake about it. CBS News wants Kamala Harris to win, make no mistake about it. And they're in full meltdown right now over any challenges, as Eliana points out, to the narrative that Israel's evil. Uniformly evil. There aren't really two sides. Tony Dokoupil tried to raise with Ta-Nehisi Coates the fact that Israel's got some real defenses to the claims that they're just genocidal maniacs, and they're still dealing with the full meltdown as a result of Tony doing that. Okay, so what did 60 Minutes cut out in the version that aired on its actual show? I'll read it to you. The aid that we've given Israel allowed Israel to defend itself against 200 ballistic missiles that were just meant to attack the Israelis and the people of Israel. And when we think about the threat that Hamas, Hezbollah presents Iran, I think that is, without any question, our imperative is to do what we can to allow Israel to defend itself against those kinds of attacks. All cut out from what aired on 60. What they aired was the work that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles. Here, watch what she says. This is what made the dance in the real 60 Minutes piece.
Does the U.S. have no sway over Prime Minister Netanyahu?
The work that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles.
You can see they edited out a bunch of stuff and went with a shorter answer. And I would submit to you, Eliana, that it's probably not accidental, that what they cleaned up was stuff that was pretty pro-Israel on the front half there, and then left it ambiguous so as not to offend either side. And then they do the follow-up in which they get rid of all the word salad, and we've played that difference time and time again. My point is simply release the transcript. What could it possibly hurt other than your reputation if you did something unethical, or hers if she sounds like an idiot? If you did nothing unethical and she sounds dumb, then there's no question that you need to release it, right? Like any journalist would say, it's not my job to make her sound smarter than she is. I feel like it's one of those two things. Either they look unethical or she looks dumb, or both.
Yeah, all we can do is speculate because I don't know why they're not releasing this transcript. And my speculation has to be that in negotiating with the Harris campaign for her to sit down, recall that when she agreed to sit down for this interview, it was at a point where she wasn't actually doing a lot of interviews. That's a new phenomenon for her. I have to imagine that part of the negotiation was that the network wouldn't release the transcript of the interview. That's just a guess. I don't know that. But it's so damaging to the network not to release the transcript, and their statement was frankly so nonsensical that I'm speculating that must be the case.
I just think this is so interesting that if you go back and you look at that first question, Emily, that the parts they cut out are the first part in which she clearly tries to say Israel's under attack and we need to help them. And then there's the middle anodyne indecipherable part. And then there's the third part, which is more pro-Hamas. right? She's kind of trying to split the baby there because she doesn't want to tick off the American Jews who support Israel and others who support Israel. And she doesn't want to tick off the people in Michigan. So 60 Minutes takes the least newsworthy, most boring part of the answer, the middle part there, and makes that her whole answer, where she just says the work that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles. That's what they did on answer 1. This isn't even the controversial one. Then we get to the edit that they did where they cut out all the word salad. To me, it's just more evidence of how they want to help her. Imagine waking up one day to find out your home no longer belongs to you. That somewhere, someplace, somebody's stolen your property right out from under you. It sounds unthinkable, but it is a sad reality for some American homeowners, and it's a risk for anyone who owns property. House stealing, that's what the FBI calls it. It's a form of real estate fraud where scammers leverage loopholes in the system to fraudulently transfer your home's title into their name. And then they take out loans against your property or even sell it behind your back. By the time you find out, the scammer's long gone, leaving you, the legitimate homeowner, to clean up the mess. But right now, triple lock protection is available through HomeTitleLock.com, offering 24/7 title monitoring, alerts, and restoration services. You can sign up today at HomeTitleLock.com and use the promo code Megyn to get 30 days of protection for free and a comprehensive title scan right now to make sure you're not already a victim. That's promo code Megyn, M-E-G-Y-N, and HomeTitleLock.com, or just use the link below. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes. The problem that Trump is having in this race, if he's having one, and I mean, he is in that he's not running away with it. So why is that? It's, of course, the gender gap. And I mean, there are definitely hangover effects of January 6th and all that too, even with men. But the biggest problem is women don't like Trump. Mm-hmm. And I know there are lots of female Trump voters listening to this right now saying, I do. I'm saying countrywide, far more women dislike Trump than like him. And I just don't know, like, how do you get through to those women? You know, because I want them to listen to us talk. Like, you do not seem like a far right or even necessarily a right. I've never asked you what your politics are. I don't care.
I'm pretty middle of the road.
Yeah.
You know?
And I, of course, had a very complicated history with Trump. All I can tell you for sure is that, you know, within the last 8 years, I really did not much like Trump at all. Mm-hmm. But then I watched him govern. Mm-hmm. And I looked at the alternative and I looked at the country. And at some point, this becomes a binary choice. And that's kind of how I felt in 2020. And I did vote for Trump in 2020, even though it was a much more difficult decision for me then. You know, I was still like, I don't know if this is a good person, but I like the policies. And now I'm at the point where I just see Trump very differently. I don't think Trump is a bad person. I think he's controversial for sure. And he says incendiary things. He's not the most sensitive character, but I don't really give an F. I feel like I don't want the most sensitive character. I would elect one of those effete Democrats if I wanted that.
Right.
I want a tough man. When he stood up after getting shot, that's like just a before and after moment. I want someone who's not afraid of China or Russia or Chuck Schumer. That was one of the best moments last night. He almost like just must Chuck Schumer's hair. Like he's like, he did it. Yeah. They want us to believe Nancy Pelosi got rid of Biden. It was him. He did it. This guy right here.
So funny.
He's not afraid of any of these people. Like, even just sit on the same stage with Tish James.
Yeah.
How could he do it? That takes real balls. Anyway, I hope these women can see it's about more than his language, whether he's rough around the edges. You know, and it's the way we ended our show yesterday where he spoke to that Bloomberg journalist, Maureen, and the guy was like, oh, is it proper to call him Gavin a new scum? Any one of the CEOs in this room would get fired for using language like that. And Trump was like, I don't care. They don't get attacked like I do. They don't have to fight the way I do.
Right.
He's so right. There's never been somebody more attacked than Trump. And so this is how he's chosen to get through it.
Right.
You know, to be bare knuckled and not unforgiving, because he will forgive you. If you're warm to him, he'll be warm to you. But if you're not, he'll keep it going forever. And to be sometimes petty, But it's that same streak that makes him stand up for Brett Kavanaugh, that makes him not fold when he gets indicted 4 times, when they literally try to steal his entire corporate fortune, when they accuse him of rape in a 30-year-old trumped up charge. All of that has to come in this package. I really hope women consider that in deciding whether he's too much.
So, to your disclosure about who you voted for in 2020, I voted for Biden. And I knew he was not fully compos mentis. I knew he was installed there by the party, but I felt a real kind of fatigue, I think, with COVID, with lockdown. Trump's administration had felt extremely erratic, people coming and going, and it just seemed like that was a check for normalcy. And I felt relieved when I did it, even though Joe Biden would never have been my first choice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I am also someone who has been yelled at personally by Donald Trump. I had nothing like what you had, but I know what it's like. And I have to tell you, Megyn, it was a high watermark of my career to be yelled at by this guy. And he kept going to the point where I said, sir, I think I have to let you go. Like, you must have more important things to do than yell at the likes of me. But I think what's happening is you have to really, I look at, there's sort of this argument like, well, you're kind of at this point voting for a person, and then there's this whole apparatus that really runs the country. But when I think about the last person in the room or the 3 a.m. call argument, all I can think about is Joe Biden in the Situation Room being told by his top military advisors, his top war strategists, don't exit Afghanistan like this. Don't. Please don't. And he said, you know what? I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to. So it matters. It matters. And every time Kamala Harris opens her mouth, she is not for us. She's not for anybody but herself.
Mm-hmm.
She's really not. And I truly believe, yes, you should always be suspicious of anybody who wants this amount of power. But we do know how Trump governed in the first term. This country did really well under him. Really well. And you kind of know what you're going to get. You do know.
I actually think that Trump's, his enormous ego, and the fact that like everything is a reflection of him that's close to him, the Trump brand, Trump Tower, his Trump company, Melania, all of it. Like, I think that's how he sees. It's not a bad thing to have him feeling that way about the country. Like, the country does well, I do well. It looks good for me. That actually, we can use that to our advantage. That's how I thought it played out the first time around. He took personal pride in the U.S. successes, and he took any losses personally too, and like wouldn't allow it and would stay on it like a dog with a bone, the way he would a reporter who he thought had crossed him, the way he would do a political enemy who he thought wouldn't stop opposing him. I just think it's actually a net positive. All the tumult that comes with him personally, I think net, it's a positive for us as a country. And you look at the other side, it's like, I do think that Brett Baier questioned Kamala Harris about, what did you know about the mental acuity?
How amazing was it that someone finally asked that question?
Yes. We've given her a total pass. And just today, Maureen, he's overseas. I think he's in Berlin, President Biden. Look, this is circulating on Twitter right now. Just take a look at the current state of our sitting president. Okay, look at this. I don't know if you've seen this video. Watch this. I'll describe it for listening audience. He is walking in like he is 200, pointing at the floor, trying to figure out where to stand. Oh, and then he stops and thinks he's nailed it like a 2-year-old with a big smile. Anybody who's ever spent time with a 2-year-old relates to what he just did there. Unsteadily walks out, and you have that feeling as the adult, like, oh, if you're going to make it. Then when you can see he nails his spot, he looks up and gives a big smile, just like you've told your little junior to do for his school picture or his school play.
I know.
She covered that up and refuses to take responsibility for any of it.
I could not believe he asked that question. I was like, finally. Because when I was watching the debate, I was like, are we just pretending that this is not a thing that's happened? That she's not been with him every week, as she has said, or last one in the room when a big decision is being made, and She knows nothing. I mean, the Biden that we just saw and that we have been seeing is terrifying. It's disheartening. It makes me extremely angry because this is what the power structure is about, just holding on to power however long you can. Biden, I think, is marshaling every last resource he has to shiv Kamala. That's what he's got the energy for.
How it looks.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm doing the Kamala hands.
Oh, the Kamala hands.
I've started making the Kamala.
I decided that's one thing I like about Kamala Harris.
Really?
Well, she has pretty hands.
Well, she does, and they're very well manicured.
Yeah.
And she has like a very expensive gemstone. I'm sure Dougie gave it to her.
I'm sure he did.
Seems like a piece of apology jewelry to me.
I was just going to say, maybe after a fight.
After a little indiscretion, maybe, But I think that, watching that video, I've never seen Joe Biden as animated in recent memory as he was talking shit to Barack Obama.
Yes, well, the lip readers say it was about her.
Yeah.
She's not strong.
Not like me.
Yeah.
Not like Methuselah.
Yeah. He knows. Okay. By the way, here's the lip reading thing. Okay. I don't have the translation in front of me, but was it the New York Post or the Daily Mail? Somebody hired a lip reader to try to figure out what they were saying, and he was saying, she's not as strong as I am. And it was the Daily Mail. I don't have it in front of me anyway. You can
It was
Google
something like that. And Barack Obama, I think, was saying yeah, I know, or I agree. This is at Ethel's funeral, right?
Yes,
Kennedy,
where then Bill Clinton got up there and said the weirdest stuff about how they always flirted together. What are you...
And how he
what are you
was
doing?
the replacement rates are down. We need more women like you to just shoot them out.
Okay. Wait, my team sent me the transcript. Here it is. Early in the conversation, Biden says to Obama, she's not as strong as me. Obama solemnly replies, I know, that's true. We have time. Obama then says to Biden, no, that's not on, presumably looking at a mic, to which Biden simply responds, Obama adds, I think it's important that we can have some time together. We'll take it at face value. Biden then appears to back his predecessor up, saying, yeah, we'll get there in time. Obama then turns his back to the camera and says something to Biden, to which Biden responds, uh-huh. So the relevant part is, she's not as strong as me. I know, that's true. We have time. Not much. So that's according to the Daily Mail's lip reader. We don't know whether that's in fact what happened. But I think you're right. He is trying to shiv her because it would be the greatest I told you so for Team Biden ever, right? You should have stuck with the one that brung you.
100%.
Health has been a big topic around the country over the past few weeks. And one thing we don't talk about enough is how exercise plays a vital role in that. And it's not just cardio. We really need to look at strength training. More muscle helps to boost metabolism and helps as we age. But let's face it, many are intimidated when it comes to lifting weights at a gym, not to mention the fact that we are all busy and we don't necessarily have the time. This is where Jacked Up Fitness comes in. They bring the gym to you, a full machine that fits in your house and does it all. It's an all-in-one home gym. It allows you to do multiple strength training exercises. And best of all, it comes with access to their app, which includes multiple workouts where you just push play and follow along. Jacked Up Fitness is an American company, and they are giving 900 machines this year to the Wounded Warrior Project. So if you're looking to take charge of your health and help veterans on their road to recovery, order your home gym today at getjackedup.com and enter code MK for a 10% discount on your own home gym. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes. And then he sits down with Joe Scarborough. Same thing. Republican who now is as left as you can make a Republican. I think he's officially now an independent. He's definitely a big Kamala Harris fan. He gets an interview with him. He works for a news organization. They purport to be an actual news organization. And the issue does come up. But this is how. Today we ran the tease clip on Friday. I said, all right, we'll wait till Monday. Maybe there's more. I'll keep an open mind. Maybe he did his job. He didn't. Here it is.
Spreading it about you, saying that tabloid stories about your personal life, saying it should be front and center. He's saying it about your wife, and making incredibly crude and lewd suggestions about her past life. How do you stay disciplined and not really go off and not really push back hard at these things?
We don't have time to be pissed off. We don't have time to focus on it. It's all a distraction. It's designed to try to get us off our game.
Does it get you off your game?
No. We love each other dearly. We love being around each other. We enjoy it. We have fun together. Right now, we're deferring that kind of happy couple time because everything we talk about right now is what else can we be doing to win this election?
I don't know if you know this or not, but your wife and I were on the cover of the New York Times Magazine this week, along with about 28 other people. And the question was whether Donald Trump would be able to jail the people he said he was going to jail. So does she think about that?
We don't think about that for ourselves. We think about it for every single other person in this country.
Yeah.
So no.
These people.
He doesn't care about women at all. This is the same side that's trying to tell us. That's why we have to have, quote, reproductive freedom. That's why trans women are women, because we, the Democrats, are the party of women.
Yeah. And supposedly that's one of their biggest gripes with Donald Trump is the allegations against him, which, you know, there are a lot of accusations against Donald Trump. And I've never heard an accusation quite like the one against Doug Emhoff, which, as you said, is recent and has also been corroborated by eyewitness accounts. So I think that is worth at least one question. Instead, he even preempted the answer by saying, oh, you know, these tabloid reports and, you know, very salacious things that Donald Trump is saying, going ahead and getting him off the hook by saying, I know these accusations are false. I'm not even going to spell them out. I won't even give him the opportunity to defend himself. I'm just going to say that they're false. That is evil. That is stupid. The arrogance, the ends justify the means completely for these people. They have no right to call themselves journalists.
His landing point was, how do you stay disciplined in the face of these reports of you being a woman beater? Right? I mean, it's just the absurdity of it. And I'll tell you what infuriates me, Allie Beth. I told the audience this, and they know this, but I've done a lot of reporting on these stories over the many years. And I don't care whether you are a Republican or a Democrat. I don't care if you're conservative or liberal. But if there are credible allegations, I don't go with everything, but if there are credible allegations against you and it becomes news, I will discuss it if it's newsworthy. And this is newsworthy. My God, he's a step away from the Oval Office right now. And I will show you. My team pulled together some examples, but these are Republicans who have been accused and Democrats who are being accused in the following budded soundbite that Canadian Debbie put together. She's been with me for 15 years. She's been through it all. Here it is. Watch this. We're back now with 3 of the 16-plus women who have accused President Trump of sexual misconduct. The American public was put in a position of having to choose between a man who'd been accused of sexual misconduct or a woman who was alleged to have enabled a husband accused repeatedly of sexual assault and even rape. Do you think the Trump campaign did a good job of nullifying all of you? Joining me now, another woman who has alleged groping, unwanted groping, by Donald Trump, Beverly Young Nelson. She told a crowded news conference Moore offered her a ride home from her job at a restaurant in 1977 when she was just 16.
Mr. Moore reached over and began groping me.
Now, he claims he never did it, he never signed it, this is a forgery. Would you be willing to submit this to an expert to figure it out?
Yes.
Senator Al Franken of Minnesota has been accused of forcefully kissing radio personality Leanne Tweeden without her consent. Oh, and also groping her. Tara, thank you so much for being here.
I remember being pushed up against the wall. He had his hands underneath my clothes.
You kept virtually every record from your 92-93 stint in Biden's office. Why would you not keep the one form that alleged harassment or retaliation? Okay.
Yep.
It's not hard. It's not hard. Just ask one question. Just ask one. Put your partisan leanings aside for just 60 seconds to do your duty. And if you did actually care about women, Allie Beth, if you did actually care about women, like I know you do, and like I know I do, you would do it. You would find the strength to do it no matter how hard your partisan leanings. Only a hack would fail. And that's what you are, Joe Scarborough. Shame on you.
Oh, absolutely. You could even just pretend for 30 seconds to care about women if you just wanted to protect your journalistic integrity and your reputation, but they don't even care about that. These people want to win at whatever the cost. And that's why Jen Psaki has that fluff interview with Doug Inhofe, which of course you've covered, in which she says that he has redefined masculinity. Now, I don't think this latest accusation had come out yet, but the accusation of him impregnating his nanny and then somehow the baby disappeared after that had come out. It seems to me like he is just your classic scumbag. I don't see anything new or progressive or shiny or inspiring about this form of masculinity that he emulates. He is your classic grimy scumbag, womanizing guy, allegedly. And I don't see anything about him that screams, I want this guy in the White House to represent me.
You don't even have to say allegedly. He admitted to banging the nanny and getting her pregnant. That was not denied when the first Daily Mail report hit. The rest of it has been denied, the business about hitting the woman. And then there was a subsequent report by the Daily Mail talking about how he was allegedly guilty of creating a toxic workplace for women when at the law firm he ran. He hasn't responded to that last I looked at all. But yeah, you're right. Agreed. Scumbag. I'm perfectly happy with the word and saying it. And it's not about tabloid. You admitted it, sir. You know how much my family and I love our dogs. Yes, even Strudwick. It's been especially bad lately. Read the newsletter. There's an update. I can't imagine life without them, though sometimes I do. Not Thunder, but sometimes. But I love him. I love him, and I do enjoy most of my time with them. Look, my dogs have a great life. I'm sure your dogs have a great life too. But you and I both know that some dogs are not so lucky. This is why I'm so glad to tell you about Delta Rescue. I love Delta Rescue. Whenever you donate to anyone who claims to take care of animals, you've got to look for the words no kill. No kill. Otherwise, you know what happens if nobody adopts the dog or the cat. This, Delta Rescue, is the largest no-kill, care for life animal sanctuary in the world. They've rescued thousands of dogs, cats, horses too. They provide all the animals with shelter and safety and most of all, love. And they've been doing it now for more than 45 years. Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions, and giving can bring tax benefits too. Speak with your estate planner about how you can grow your estate while helping animals in need, and check out the estate planning tab on their website to learn more. We love Thunder and Strudwick, but would love for other dogs who need care and attention and a home to find those too. Visit deltarescue.org today to learn more. That's deltarescue.org. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes. I think a lot of people feel like you do. They look at Trump, maybe they have mixed feelings on him, but they think about somebody like Elon, who really does know a lot about AI, being in a leadership position, skinnying down government and finding efficiencies in it, and RFKJ coming in there. I know you're a fan of his, but you mentioned making America healthy again. You really get the feeling he can do it. You know, Trump, he's been introducing RFKJ, MSG, and elsewhere by saying, we're not going to let him do anything on environment or energy. He's like, it's a little out there on that stuff for me, if that's what Trump's saying. But he said, but that stuff, right on. And that's an exciting thought to think of RFKJ going in there and cracking down on groups like the FDA and all these others who work together to keep us sick.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, that was part of my journey. I was a Bobby Kennedy guy. I still feel like he would be the best president. I think he would be such an incredible president. And I supported him, and I was with him, and I was doing everything I could for his campaign. The Democratic Party, not Trump and the Republicans, the Democratic Party made it impossible for him to run. That's a fact. So, and then ultimately having, a non-primary, a non-democratic primary, just putting Kamala into where she was. But I went through Bobby. To me, Bobby is somebody who really understands. And by the way, also, I love his eloquence. I love that he reaches across. I love that he has so many reasons that he could spill and spew so much hate about so many people, given the history of his own family and what our government, I believe, has absolutely done to his father and to his uncle. And he doesn't do that. He takes the high road every single time. And he really understands what's going on, particularly with the health of this nation and the corruption that is going on in our food industry, our agricultural industry, our pharmaceutical industry, our energy industry, all of these industries, because that's what happens when you have lobbyists, when you have special interests, when you have money that can go from an industry to a politician in order to grease wheels, which is what we've been doing for far too long. You get so much corruption, and Bobby knows that, and Bobby really can get in there and do it. So once he dropped out, and once he and Trump really came together and they formed this unity movement, and then for Tulsi Gabbard to come in, I mean, really, Tulsi, she's how I ended up getting involved in all of this, because we became friends. I told her what I was concerned with, and that I thought she and Bobby were amazing, and that as difficult as it can be sometimes to want to stand in this Trump campaign because of those things that I might have issue with, I know at the end of the day, he's still the right of these two options, the right way to go. And then Tulsi said, hey, listen, it will, this could be a difficult thing for you, but if you wanted to moderate our town hall, Bobby and I are going to do a town hall with the Trump campaign in Michigan. And I really felt like that was, as I thought and prayed, like, God, if you want me to really step into all of this, I need you to tell me, I need you to call me into this. And then for Tulsi to literally call me and say, would you want to do this? I prayed, I thought, I said, okay, I think this is that moment where I can do what I need to do. But because, like you're saying, I'm not voting for Donald Trump. I'm voting for Donald Trump and Bobby Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard and Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk and JD Vance and everyone else that they're going to bring in this team, this Avengers, this Voltron, whatever you want to call it. And they're going to get in there and actually do what Donald Trump said he was going to do the first time, which is drain the swamp. And he has admitted that he couldn't do it, and he didn't do it because he didn't know what he was doing. He didn't even think he was going to win the first time. And he had no time for his transition team. And then it was loaded with a bunch of sycophants and horrible people that were the swamp monsters that Bobby Kennedy has very accurately pointed out. And so now they're privately funding. I love this, that Trump is privately funding his own transition team, not waiting for the government. So they are ready to go. And they are not compromised. That is the government that I want. That is that is something. Bobby is 100%. He and Tulsi are going to be let loose to be the bulldogs that we need to hold people to account. And by the way, and they will do it fairly. They will do it civilly. They will do it in love. I've sat with both of them. They are incredibly wonderful human people that really want, and which is why, by the way, they're not it's fascinating to me that the Democrats want to tout Cheney endorsing Kamala as if that's a good thing, as if somehow that's like a feather in the cap. That's a guy that almost everyone could agree on, both right and left. Once we all found out the weapons of mass destruction was a lie, all of us could go, that's not a guy we want. That's not a guy we want to trust. So his endorsement to me is nonsense. For Bobby and Tulsi, lifelong Democrats, to literally leave their party and say, no, the polls have shifted. If the Republican Party is now the party of peace and free speech and all of these things, and actually holding big business and industry accountable, then by God, that's where they want to be. And that's where we should all want to be.
That's exactly right. This is not your grandfather's Republican Party at all, especially with this team of rivals he's put together. Jordan Peterson, this is a reference you can understand, was referring to them as a bunch of Marvel superheroes. Exactly that crowd you just mentioned. Elon, RFKJ, Tulsi, Vivek. I can't remember if there was another one, but JD. All around Trump. JD Vance helping him get the ball over into the end zone together, like each of them sort of working on their key issues. So you're getting more than just Trump. You're getting a team that we've seen now for years in the public eye. It's exciting. If he loses, that's one of the things I'll be most disappointed about the next day. Like not just the loss of Trump and the elevation of Kamala, but the loss of all this opportunity, like what good that team could do for the country. It's just who looks at Elon and says, no, I don't want you. I don't want your mind helping us. Who looks at RFKJ and says, I don't want you cleaning up the water that my kids swim in or the food that they eat?
Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who think that. And I don't think that they're horrible people. I think they're people that have been propagandized to and lied to for far too long. And I ultimately, I think this is one of the greatest evils that has been perpetrated against really all of humanity, but I'll just speak for us in the United States, is that we have a media. And by the way, a lot of people within the media, those journalists, those pundits, I don't even think they're horrible people that are somehow in on this plan. I think they unwittingly are spreading a lot of the very misinformation that they accuse X and Elon and Donald and everybody else of spreading. But it's just simply not true. We have a bifurcated population in large part because half of the population, or whatever portion of the population, still believes the mainstream media and the stories that come out of it that would tell you that Elon's a horrible person, that Donald's a horrible person, that all of these other people are horrible people, and you don't want anything to do with them. Everyone else who has already, I think, woken up to the idea that, oh, I don't want to listen to any of that mainstream media because they're just puppeting. They're being puppeted. They are parroting. They are doing these are all talking points. These are governmental issued talking points. Whether those journalists know it or not, there is a lot of pressure through all of that. And everyone else, all of us, we're listening, we're watching your show. We're watching other people's shows. We're going to the non-mainstream, but I guess it's now becoming mainstream. So let's say that we're not listening to the legacy media. We are now tuning into where the truth can be found. And you know where the truth can be found because it's a lot of ideas that can be challenged. And the fact that they want to censor, that they want to get into X and they want to shut down thoughts and sentiments that are not in alignment with what they're trying to shove down our throats, that's where we get into a lot of trouble. The pandemic is a perfect example of that. There was the narrative that was being pushed on everyone across the world that we were leading, by the way, but with Fauci and everything else, the United States, in a lot of ways, we lead a lot of things. And we were saying, here's all the things you need to know. If you get the vaccination, you won't get sick. That turned out not to be true. If you get the vaccination, you won't transmit it to anyone else. That turned out not to be true. If you get the vaccination, you won't get seriously sick. That turned out not to be true. If you get the vaccination, you will not die. All of these things turn out to not be true. And there were scientists and doctors who were very early on saying, hey, wait a minute, you can't say those things. That's not true. Shut down, censored, literally their lives were destroyed. Now, 4 years later, shocker, it turns out that they were right. And there's no comeuppance, and there won't be any comeuppance. There won't be any. And by the way, and I'm not saying like comeuppance, like we should go destroy them. We should still act higher than that and love, but hold people to account. And Bobby Kennedy,
they don't even admit their error.
No.
And they're dealing with human lives. They don't even admit the error. They're happy to continue smearing like Dr. Jay Bhattacharya as some kook.
Yeah.
Even though he was one of the leaders on this, he was right all along. Let me ask you this, Zachary, because as I watch this, what's extraordinary, among other things, about your story and coming out is a lot of Hollywood actors who will come out and say I'm conservative, or I'm, even if you're not saying that, but like I'm ready to vote for a Republican, especially Trump. Maybe they're like not in the peak of their career. All right. Like they're not risking that much in doing it.
Sure.
You are. Your career's on fire. It's great. You're a big star and you're getting bigger by the week. So did you pause at all? I mean, you say you had the conversation with God about your values and how much you were going to stand up for them. But was there the other conversation with your agent who said, this is insanity, you'll never get cast again?
I mean, yeah, listen, I'm very intentional about what I do in my life, and I like to think through things and be wise as I can, which does not mean I don't blunder. We all do, we're all human. But when Tulsi invited me to go do that town hall, I knew that would be the beginning of what will be the next chapter of my life, and which would be out of this closet of not being able to speak up, even though throughout my career, there were moments where I would, or attempted to, or whatever. But, when you're surrounded by 90%, at least in, I would say, the above the line, the actors, writers, producers, directors, like that's a predominant, and that's where all the power is. That's the predominant, area of, I would say, liberal, progressive, Democrats. Tons of crew, by the way, and lots of other actors and directors, writers, and producers. But the crew within Hollywood and entertainment, there are so many conservatives. There are so many, but nobody can say anything. And I was done. I was done sitting on my hands, and I was done biting my tongue. And I talked to my team, and I said, I've been invited to do this thing. This will essentially be an endorsement of Donald Trump. I need you guys to know that I'm considering this. And to their credit, all of them said, we will support you in whatever you feel like you need to do. We're not going to tell you not to. We'll tell you that it might make this more difficult for us and for you. So, weigh that as you need to, but we will support you as a human being, because they know me and they know my heart and they know that I care. And listen, I would argue that while I am absolutely in a position in my life and in my career where I have a significant more amount to lose than other people that might come out as conservative or voting for Trump or whatever, I would still consider myself in the B plus A minus of the stair steps that are celebrity. I'm not a part of and have never really been a part of all the reindeer games. They didn't invite me to those. I'm not, so I could understand somebody else and because there's levels to this, right? So anyway, my point is that yes, I've gotten to do all these incredible jobs, but Shazam, the last Shazam didn't perform that well. Harold and the Purple Crayon didn't perform that well. I'm not trying to say, even though I appreciate the compliment, I'm in a really solid place in my career. I hope I will continue to. And I also, for what it's worth, have already been approached by lots of other people, though they have to remain silent, have come to me and said, I will hire you all day long. Like, don't worry about it. You'll work. So I'm not worried about that. Plus, there's so many other things that I want to do. I want music to be more a part of my life. I want podcasting and other things to be more a part of my life because I like being able to do lots of different things and bring joy in lots of different ways. But like I said, I don't, when you feel God's call on your life, maybe there's some courage and there's some bravery, but really there's a lot of peace involved in that.
This year, supply chain issues have been more prevalent than ever. Whether it's the result of natural disasters like Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton, global conflict, or inflation, the impacts are being felt everywhere. While they sometimes are a minor inconvenience, delays in accessing essential medications can become catastrophic. The U.S. relies on overseas sources for more than 80% of its generic medications. So what happens when there are delays? Or what if supplies are cut off? How will you care for your loved ones and yourself? The Jase case offers peace of mind for you and your family in the face of delays, shortages, and disasters. This is an emergency medication kit containing 5 life-saving antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. Simply complete a quick online evaluation to ensure you're prepared. The Jase case can also be customized with add-ons like ivermectin, EpiPens, and more. Don't wait. Consider preparing right now. Receive a discount on your Jase case by visiting jase.com and entering promo code MK at checkout. That's promo code MK at jase.com, ensuring you have the right medications exactly when you need them. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.
The people who are voting for Kamala Harris, even though I'm not going to vote for her, are not my enemy. They are American citizens who've made some decisions and some choices. Thank God they're able to do that. I disagree with their choices because I disagree with her vision for America. Well, I disagree with the fact that she doesn't have a vision, first of all, and she's afraid to talk about it, too cowardly to go on the press.
You weren't moved by what you heard on CNN the other night?
No. It's just shocking. I mean, it's just shocking.
It's
horrifying. But they're entitled to what they think. So I thought, yes, I'm going to say to me, the only thing I thought about was, I would say to you this, let's forget, they expect me to come out here and go, Kamala Harris slept her way to the middle and checked boxes to the top and she never got a single vote. She doesn't know what she's talking about and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to say horrible things like that about Kamala Harris because it's unbecoming of me as a gentleman. So let's just throw it back in the box. Sorry, I didn't mean for that to slip out. How am I doing? How am I doing so far?
You're acing it.
But let's just say this. Let's talk about the America she wants, and let's talk about the America that Donald Trump wants. So it's this simple. If you want another 20 million illegal aliens to come across the border, unvetted, okay, unvaccinated, unaccounted for, if you love fentanyl, if you love tuberculosis, if you love cartel crime, if you love sex trafficking of children and so on, then vote for her again. If you want a secure border, you want a secure military, then there's somebody else you can vote for.
Aren't you moved by he's a fascist? He's threatening to unleash the military.
I'm moved by it. Yeah, you know why I'm moved by it? Here's why. The man almost had his head blown off by a Democrat assassin. There was a second opportunity for it to happen. And here's what I can tell you. In a political election, when you say somebody's Hitler, yet another trans killer or some other demented Democrat killer, is going to say, oh, I've got my walking papers. Because let me tell you something. Someone said, I can take you on a time machine and I can put you back in Nazi Germany. And here's a gun and you can kill Hitler and save millions of lives. I think it's a moral obligation to do it. And there's some crazy Democrat in some mother's basement somewhere wearing a tutu, loading up a rifle saying, you know what, this guy's Hitler. Kamala Harris just told me that.
You can't say it's not possible. We've seen it too many times now.
Yeah, they're engineering it. They're engineering another assassination, and it's absolutely reprehensible.
They've completely abandoned all the, well, we really need to tone down the rhetoric after Trump nearly got his head blown off. Listen to Hillary Clinton. Trump is making a speech next week at Madison Square Garden. That's his closing
she's
argument.
Already called it the Nazi rally.
Yeah, take a listen to Hillary Clinton.
And, one other thing that you'll see next week, Caitlin, is Trump actually reenacting the Madison Square Garden rally in 1939. I write about this in my book. President Franklin Roosevelt was appalled that neo-Nazis, fascists in America were lining up to essentially pledge their support for the kind of government that they were seeing in Germany. So I don't think we can ignore it.
And they won't. I'll give you one more. Steve Colbert doubling down on the same messaging.
It's just a coincidence. I'm sure it's just a coincidence that in 1939 they held a pro-Nazi rally there. Yeah. It was a stain on MSG's history. And last night, Anderson Cooper asked Kamala Harris point blank what she thought.
Do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do.
Bam! Thank you. Kamala Harris is not afraid. No hesitation.
Okay, that last guy literally said, and I'm quoting him, literally called Donald Trump Putin's cock holster. Okay, so after 2 years of a complete and utter hoax, wasting America's time and tax money,
trying to ruin his first administration,
and went a long way to do it. People like this spew the mantra of the DNC. They all say the same thing. They don't even bother to change the words. And they're trying to destroy it again. They're so desperate now, they're going to start talking about Nazi rallies, and they all say the same thing. It's embarrassing. They were wrong then. 5 people have been censured in the House of Representatives. One of them was the officially censured liar, Adam Schiff, who promoted the hoax, along with his fluffers, like these 2 clowns that you just showed us. And they're just acting like clowns. I mean, Nazi rally and so on. Let's talk about those visions that these people have. Okay? You want to talk about a threat to democracy? Let's get a candidate who's never had a single vote. Let's just perform a coup d'etat on a walking corpse who spends his time on the Delaware beach, but is nonetheless still the rightfully elected, possibly, president of the United States. And we'll just throw him under the bus, and we'll shoehorn in a completely unqualified, unelected, unnominated candidate. I suppose they used lawfare somehow to squeeze around the edges of the reality, who's talking about, let's have reparations, for example, coming from a family of slave owners.
Yeah.
And I say this coming from a family that fought in the American Revolution. Okay, so I think I have probably a pretty good valid position to be able to say that, a person descended from a family of slave owners really doesn't need to tell me that I owe reparations to people who were, in fact, never slaves. Right. And I certainly never owned them myself. So, here's what they do. It's the Saul Alinsky trick. Whatever it is you're guilty of, we're going to blame you.
Yeah.
And you can feel it coming.
There is a lot at stake in this upcoming election, but regardless of who's sitting in the White House, the fuse on the economy has already been lit. Every 4 years, a conservative might win, but that's not enough to turn around the tide on our $35 trillion national debt. And if the left wins, it's like throwing gas on a dumpster fire. One thing you could do is to diversify your savings into gold with the help of Birch Gold Group. For millennia, gold has stood firm in the face of greedy governments, economic upheavals, and global strife, and it can protect you now. Birch Gold will help you convert an IRA or a 401k into an IRA in physical gold, tax-free and penalty-free, and it doesn't cost you a cent out of pocket. In the past 4 years, the buying power of the U.S. dollar has declined. The price of gold has gone up. Text MK to 989898 to get your info kit. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes. The big news right now is Hezbollah and whether a new front just opened in the north of Israel with an incursion from the north. Your thoughts on it?
We are headed for not just a regional war, but I believe we're headed for a global war. You can't have Hezbollah in the north, Hamas on the south, and what will be the IRGC coming in from the Syrian side. It's going to overwhelm Israel. And I honestly, it will take a miracle to keep us out of World War III, I think. However, miracles have happened with Israel over and over again. So there's a few things I've been listening to your monologue, and I want to address. First of all, this is in some dark way, a blessing if we look at it this way. This is the first time in human history that I know of somebody has said who they are and then proven it. Hitler, when he said, I'm going to kill all the Jews, it was in print, it was everywhere, but nobody wanted to believe him because it was too horrific. He even tried to cover it with a final solution and then cover it at the end. He didn't want to be known as that guy. So we didn't know. This time we know. They say it is not about a second state. It is about killing the Jews, period. We know what they say. We know what they do. They put it on social media. They wanted the world to see it. So this goes into not only who Hamas is, but who is Iran, who is Hezbollah, who is the RIGC, who is Black Lives Matter?
Yeah.
Who are the people that are in our own Congress, in our own schools, that are endorsing this or turning a blind eye? This is where the blessing comes in. This, I think, is one of your last chances to actually get off of that death train and step on to a platform of truth. There is good and evil, and it is clear. I don't care what was done to, let's say, us in World War II. If Americans would have been the ones that were tortured and killed the way they were in the death camps, I still wouldn't be for going in and shooting German families in their homes and killing their children. That would make us evil. So no matter what's happened to you, it never excuses you killing families and children knowingly. It's not like dropping a bomb and all your guys happen to be hanging out by a school. Yep, that's unfortunate. I don't like that. Nobody wants that, but that is war. You went in intentionally to kill civilians, to rape women, and to kill babies. That is as evil as it gets, and that evil is the same evil that says, hey, shout your abortion. It is the same evil that says whites are inferior and they need to be taught a lesson. What happened with Hamas is exactly what will happen, and they are for it, as you saw out of Chicago, exactly what will happen if these radical groups like BLM are in charge or allowed to fester and grow. They are a death cult. This is all about a death cult. It's interesting to me that if somebody 200 years ago did something like this, which we all now say is horrible, we have to pay for it. But if somebody does something today to Jews, I guess it's okay. So first thing to remember is this can be a blessing to us because we actually can see it. We hear them. We see them. We can recognize evil. Make sure you're on the right side. The second thing that I think comes out of this is an understanding that at least a regional war, I believe this is going to turn into the global war, is coming. So you not only have to know who your friends are, know what side you're on, but you also have to now look at the border, because we have what probably is in the thousands of enemies of America. You can't tell me that they're not sleeper cells in Judea and Samaria, and you can't tell me that there's not sleeper cells here now in America. If we get into a global war, the world and the world as we know it in America is going to change. So the best thing that you can do is know what side you're on. There's no neutral here. If you're neutral, you're going to end up on the wrong side. You have to look this in the eye. You have to decide who you are today. Then you have to actively get involved by doing good and being a voice of reason, not of chaos, and stand for the things that, honestly, if you just are a political person, just dedicate yourself to doing everything you can to make the people like Rashid Tlaib, make sure they're not elected again. Mm-hmm. Make sure that you've done everything in your power to make sure that this philosophy is flushed down the toilet as it should have been a long time ago. Make sure you're working for an election where things will change, because what you're seeing now is such an incompetent president. He has screwed this country up so many different ways. We're an unprepared military, gas prices. We go to war, gas prices will easily be $10 a gallon. There'll be shortages of things because he has screwed us in the end. But you look at this, we're a nation that is unprepared for war for the first time in my lifetime. We are sitting back the way we were maybe right before World War I. That's not a good place to be.
A moment on the BLM thing, because it really is telling. So BLM Chicago post a picture of a paraglider, which is, of course, in part how the Hamas terrorists got into Israel to kill the innocents, with a Palestinian flag, or what purports to be, flying from the top. And it reads, "I stand with Palestine" on the bottom. And BLM tweets out, "That is all. That is it." This is the group, Miranda Devine was pointing this out yesterday online, that companies like Disney, Google, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Walmart, Target, Lululemon, McDonald's, Wendy's, Coca-Cola, Peloton, etc., lavished money on in 2020. Oh, yeah. This is the group that changed Fifth Avenue in New York to where we had to have a BLM moniker on it, that changed the courts on the NBA. This is the group that if you didn't post the little black square in solidarity with them on a certain day, people started to accuse you of being a racist. But there were many people who had questions about this group from the start, because as you point out, some people really do tell you who they are right from the get-go. And their mission statement was very clear about what they wanted to do and dismantle the nuclear family and completely change America. And here they are at it again. I mean, openly, that is it. That is it! Exclamation. They are loving what's happening right now, Glenn. And many Jewish Americans supported this group back in 2020, and now when they need support, it's a celebration of their murder.
So I would, again, use this as a way to wake people up. If you were for BLM, I'm sorry you didn't believe that it was for, maybe a month or so when they first started on their own website, the end of the nuclear family, the end of capitalism as we know it, the end of the Western way of life. This is what is happening with the Palestinians and Hamas to the Israelis. That is what BLM's world looks like. When they say they want an end to the nuclear family, I thought that was evil. I just didn't realize that they meant any kind of end, even shooting them in their sleep or beheading their babies. This has got to be understood. And, Megyn, I'd be interested in hearing your point of view on this, because there's a big, there's an argument that's happening even inside of my own building here with my producers. Tonight, I have Ben Shapiro and Dave Rubin on my Wednesday night special. And we're going to show the videos that everybody, including Israel, says don't show. I think those videos are so important. It is like having pictures of the gas chambers in 1940 and not showing them. I think they need to be seen, because this is the evidence that shows you, look, they said they will kill all Jews. They've said that. Now here they are. And there is no way to defend killing women and children execution style on social media. Everybody says that shouldn't be seen, including Israel. I disagree. We have photos now of the death chamber. Why wouldn't we show them?
Yeah. It's a tough call. I mean, I agree in general with the showing of the videos right now. We've chosen to carve like a middle lane on it and show some, but not all. Just because, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I just feel like there's only so much my heart can take in even bringing the show, never mind my audience.
I know.
There's just only so much. I don't know about you, Glenn, but like this has been weighing on me so heavily. It's really changing my personality these past few days. You got to be able to function in your own life. You got to be able to get your kids off to school. You got to be able to be a loving, kind mother. And there's only so much I can take. And that's me. I don't mean to make me the story. I'm just saying, like, me, all these thousands of miles away, I can't imagine that when we're going to talk, Dr. Drew's going to be here in a little while. We're going to talk about, like, how are they functioning, the amount of terror that's being unleashed on these poor families, even the ones who survived. How do you go about your day? How do you ever live normally again? So I support your decision. And I think it's great to tell people in advance you're going to do it. And that way they can make the choice for themselves, whether they want to see it, or they don't want to see it. But don't comment on it. If you haven't seen it, if you haven't taken the time to at least see some of it, then don't comment because you don't understand.
Yeah, but more importantly, it has to be shown. So, I mean, Megyn, you and I both worked. I worked at CNN. We both worked at Fox. You had to have special permission to take the World Trade Center footage out of the vault and show it on your show. And it was only really allowed around September 11th. I think that's a mistake because you forget that if you never again is now, right now, and they're just doing it in a different way than they were doing it in the 1930s. And how many people risk their lives? Raoul Wallenberg is a great hero. He risked his life to save Jews. He tried to get the information. He handed it to the Americans. He handed it to the Swiss. He handed it to the British. And no one would do anything. So all of the stories of the Holocaust were rumors and were on page 31 of the New York Times.
Well, I know you've heard bedding and apparel brands say, we're the most softest, we're the most comfortable, but do they actually promise it? Do they guarantee it? They put their money where their mouth is. At Cozy Earth, they do. At Cozy Earth, you get the softest, most luxurious feeling fabric guaranteed. And that means if you don't love Cozy Earth's bamboo sheets, their famous bamboo sheets, you have 100 days to get your money back. They're not worried, though, about refunds because once you try Cozy Earth, you're hooked for life. Start with Cozy Earth's best-selling bamboo sheet set, made of 100% premium viscose from bamboo. Super soft, ethically sourced sheets which regulate your temperature, keeping you cool in the summer and cozy in the winter months. And it's not just sheets. They've got pajamas, loungewear, bath towels, and much more. Unbelievably soft, unforgettably comfortable. The coziest way to make your home a sanctuary. And don't forget Cozy Earth's guarantee. All of their products can be returned or exchanged within 100 days and include an additional 10-year warranty against defects. CozyEarth.com. Enter code Megyn at checkout for up to 40% off your order. CozyEarth.com. Promo code MEGYN. CozyEarth.com. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes. I got another example of it. Now, this person is not a politician and she's not a newscaster, but she's pretty famous and she's been in the news for bad things over the past couple of years as far as the right half of the country is concerned. Her name is Rachel Ziegler. Ziegler? I don't know. Ziegler. Okay, there's something wrong with this person. She's also known as the star of Snow White and the Disney movie. Remember, she was out like a couple years ago being like, there's certainly not going to be a prince rescuing me. I can tell you that. And then Disney got on its heels and they're like, we're going to reshoot the movie immediately. Like we're going to make some changes because there was so much backlash to her arrogance and just inanity. Well, she's back and she's very, very upset about the Trump win. Okay. This is a post she made on X. Here's what she posted. And by the way, she's starring right now in Broadway's Romeo and Juliet, so don't go see that. Okay, she writes, I find myself speechless in the midst of this. Another 4 years of hatred, leaning us towards a world I do not want to live in, leaning us towards a world that will be hard to raise my daughter in. P.S. She has no daughter. She has no children at all. Leading us towards a world that will force her, who's her, your daughter who doesn't exist, okay, to have a baby she doesn't want. Talk about borrowed worry, fellas. Leading us towards a world that is fearful. Yeah, 23 years old, no kids. I shouldn't be this shocked, but I am. I am heartbroken for my friends who awoke with fear this morning. And I am here with you to cry, to yell, to hug, to wax poetic on how the left continues to fail us in forging a new path forward. This loss should not have been, and it certainly should not have been by so many votes. I echo Ethel Kane's statement more than anything. May Trump supporters and Trump himself never know peace.
Yeah.
What the F? How? And then she discusses the deep, deep sickness in the country. There's no help, no counsel in any of them. She attacked Twitter and Elon and finished with, fuck Donald Trump.
Man.
Hello, Disney. You're going to have to redo your film again because this woman is a pig and you fired Gina Carano for far less than this nonsense.
That's the thing is, so Disney, I mean, this saga, like you said, goes back a very long time. So she initially comes out and Disney's first film that they ever won an Academy Award with was Snow White. It's beloved by, children and parents all over the world. And she says that that's actually a very creepy story. A woman doesn't need to be rescued by a prince, and just attacks the film that is the cornerstone of everything Disney's built. They have this PR move where she goes and she's like, no, actually, I love Snow White. It's a very nice story. And she steps in it again. And this comes at a time when Disney stock keeps going down.
Yeah.
And they're like, please do not say anything. And yet again, they can't moderate.
Simple. It's so simple. It's like we took all these beloved things that everybody loves and we ruined them, and we're shocked that we lost this election. That people, revolted against that.
Yeah, no, there are a variety of responses that come to mind when you hear her post, but it is music to my ears. And I'm not sure which part she's playing in Broadway's Romeo and Juliet, but I feel like that sets her up for a leadership position in the Democrat Party. And I would like to see her on a major party.
Totally. Of course she's Juliet. Of course. And they'll have no problem with this. Can you picture a Broadway actress who issued a post saying, F Biden supporters. May Biden or Kamala never have a moment's peace. That person would be fired so fast it would make your head spin. They wouldn't last one more minute in any Hollywood role. This is truly she has to go. I'm sorry, Disney. She has to go. Right now, they're dealing with the controversy with ABC, with one of their biggest stars, Michael Strahan, who refused to put his hand over his heart for the anthem, and the blowback just for that. He stood there with his hands in front of him, even though he's the son of a military vet. The blowback has been enormous. It is dominating the Daily Mail now for a week, for 4 days now, since Veterans Day, for that. And you're going to put out a Disney film with Snow White, a beloved American character, with a woman who hates more than half the country, the half that just elected Donald Trump. This is an incredible pivot point right now. We'll see which way the woke Disney decides to go.
Yeah, no question about it. I also think it's just sort of a microcosm of this larger issue that Democrats and progressives have had, in that they literally need to implant brain damage into people. And you see it look at that quote that you just read from her. Just completely insane. If you're going to distract millions of people from a failed economic policy, open borders, things that demonstrably make their lives totally worse, the only way to do that is to give them actual brainwash.
Yeah.
Right? And really pollute their information flow to the point where they don't know how to handle themselves in public. And you just don't see that on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
Right? It's you can have huge disappointments, but it's life goes on. For them, it's no, it's the end of eternity, because I'm surrounded by this information flow that has convinced me that literally is coming back. And it's sad, honestly.
Right. It's no wonder that institutions like Disney and ABC are so out of touch with reality when you consider the fact that 80%, 90% of the people who work in both of those organizations think exactly like she does. And until they have a 50-50 split, they're not going to understand. A 50-50, like half Republican, half Democrat, until they have that, they're not going to understand how to talk to regular people.
Well, Ashbrook, there's a report out today about how these so-called mainstream, meaning corporate media dinosaurs, are in a full-blown panic right now, trying to find people who actually understand Donald Trump and his voters to come and be commentators on their shows, like The View. Then there's this whole debate about, is somebody going to get fired? Because already, believe it or not, they have 2 purported conservatives on The View right now. I know you don't know that, but they all hate Trump. They all hate Trump. So it's like, well, did they bring in a 7th chair onto the already crowded table? Or do they fire somebody, replace with an actual Trump supporter? I'll be shocked if they find an actual, even Megyn McCain was never a Trump supporter. She was just a conservative. They haven't had an actual Trump supporter on there, I think, ever. So that's the same network. So they're worried about how to get a conservative, a Trump supporter on The View that's going to put out this with this star who hates us, who's a woke Snow White. Like, they don't know what to do. They have no conservatives in their lives. They aren't out of the echo chamber. They're in the same echo chamber as this Rachel Ziegler is. And that's why they can't figure out how to fix anything.
Right. And you don't solve the problem with window dressing. One person sitting on the desk at The View having a conservative point of view is not going to change the problem, because they're going to get bullied to kingdom come when the cameras go off. They need to change the culture of these places. It has to be half Republican, half Democrat, just like the rest of our country. And in the case of ABC, I think they should hire 50.2% of their staff as Republican to look exactly the way the popular vote looked last.
I mean, I guarantee you the crew over there is already Republican. The crews tend to be more right-leaning. They're the best piece of network news. I love all the crew guys I worked with, even at NBC. But the on-air talent and the producing staff and the administrative staff is a different story. So they're not going to. And that's the problem. It won't work. You're right, because look what's happening on CNN. We just played the clip with the great Scott Jennings, who's been a one-man, band over there trying to take down these liberal talking points. It's entertaining for us to watch. He's not saving CNN. CNN's ratings are in the fucking toilet. Sorry, they are. So it's not going to save you unless you actually change the way your network is set up, and until you actually get the big first sit down with Kamala Harris and you send a real journalist in there, not you, Dana Bash, to ask actually hard questions with follow-ups that are pressing. It's not that hard. It was a mere 10 years ago that you had journalists over there who would do it. You let it slip away too fast. 4 years of crushing interest rates, runaway inflation, and reckless government spending, and who is paying the price? You are. You might have bills stacking up, debt collectors on your back. You might barely be able to keep food on the table. Done with Debt can be a way out. They have developed new, aggressive strategies designed to get you out of debt permanently, without bankruptcy and without loans. Done with Debt stands between you and your bill collectors. They can go head-to-head with these creditors, getting balances reduced, interest rates slashed, and penalties stopped. They create a plan to end your debt fast and put more cash in your pocket every month. And right now, Done with Debt is accepting new clients, but you need to act fast. Some credit relief programs expire. Before you even make another payment, consider a visit to donewithdebt.com or call 1-888-322-1054 right now. Speak with one of their debt relief strategists for free. Go to donewithdebt.com. That's donewithdebt.com. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.